probably in the mailbox. Well, back high.
Broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote Studios, where it's always cool and comfortable.
Yes! Oh, I like
It's up to you now. It's up to you.
I like it.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton on this first Tuesday of July. It is the 7th day of the month. Thanks so much for being with us on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, where we stream Miller and Moulton. Where else but millerandmoulton.com, and we broadcast live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. Another early start for one Mark Miller. I got my first email at a little after 5:30. How are you?
I'm good. I tried to talk to you for 4 or 5 minutes. You had the volume down on the headsets. I'm like, hey, good morning. I said it 2 or 3 times. I'm like, all right, he's busy. The man is busy this morning.
I am. Had to get the starting five together.
Wow, with all those games last night.
Soon enough, technically tomorrow. If you're a soccer fan, technically tomorrow. They'll have matches tomorrow. But baseball in a little more than 2 weeks for those of you that are going to pay attention to this ridiculous season, and basketball in a little more than 3 weeks when they resume their season. So we're getting there. Knock on wood.
We'll see.
We are getting there. Right.
We'll see. I'll tell you, I got an email last night, or I guess I saw a tweet and did get an email last night that made me, well, nervous and excited all at the same time. It has nothing really to do with sports, but it does. Because I think any opening anywhere, we can twist it into having a little bit to do with sports. But yesterday, late afternoon, early evening, Jeff Butera tweeted out that there's an executive order signed. We're going back to school in the fall in Florida.
Saw that.
And after my wife and I did a little dance around the house, high-fived a few times, I put some money back in the bank so I don't have to spend it on a private school to send my daughter away this year. I wondered how that just impacted high school sports, David. And all of these little openings are a dare to me almost, David. We're daring it to see whether we can move forward. NASCAR started. The first dare was NASCAR or UFC. They dared everybody. And by and large, they've run pretty well.
Yeah.
NASCAR's come out. They've run pretty well, despite Jimmy Johnson being tested positive, and UFC had a couple of trainers and fighters. Golf's had a handful of people, but by and large, the 3 sports that have returned have not only returned, they've returned to pretty good reviews. The play, driving, fighting's been regarded as high level, and it's giving us something. But none of these are stick and ball sports where one positive test changes everything.
Well, and none of these are organized team sports. And I know that the NASCAR fan would go, come on, you've got racing teams and drivers and crew. But now we're getting to the organized team sports where the story that's not going to get a lot of play today, but we will talk about it, and we will have Don Garber join us coming up here. Joe Tollison will join us coming up in a little more than an hour to talk about the MLS situation, where you had a couple of guys on one team, and clearly it's spread throughout the team. Because they've had 13 positive tests total in the MLS, 26 teams and 557 players. They've had 13 positive tests, 10 of them players on one team. And because of it, the MLS stepped in and said, yeah, this team will be at a competitive disadvantage. The team's been quarantined. They're not training. They haven't been practicing for 10 days. They're not going to be ready to play. We start play tomorrow. We're going to just have to take FC Dallas out of the equation. We're going to have to play without them. Sorry, guys, bad break. It's a pandemic. and you guys got it. So
Your advantage cannot be breathing on the other team.
Yeah. So there you go. So the MLS will now move on with 25 teams, and they'll make do, and there you have it. I remember there was the women's soccer league, the Orlando team had too many positive tests before they were supposed to go to Utah, and they said, yeah, we're out. We don't have enough healthy players. We can't do this.
But this is MLS and it's FC Dallas, and let's be honest, 6 people care about FC Dallas.
Right.
When it's the LA Lakers.
Yes.
No, and I'm not dismissing what happened. I'm just saying that we're not MLS fans in this country.
No. And I said at the beginning, I said no one's going to talk about this story because it's the MLS, but it is the situation that is looming out there in organized team sports.
And think about it. Soccer, 11. It's more similar to football than any other sport from terms of players on the field. You get 4 guys on a basketball team, that basketball team's rendered useless, particularly on who the 4 players are. Not to mention if 8 players on a basketball team get it.
Right.
And that's why I think this story is everything, because if you throw this story into baseball, into hockey, into the NBA, you've ended a team's year.
Right. And if these leagues, just imagine that what is going on with FC Dallas takes place with an NBA team in August. The season has resumed. Maybe even we're into the playoffs. And then all of a sudden, one team gets hit hard by the coronavirus, where 1 or 2 guys had it, they didn't know it, they spread it, and there you go. I mean, Seth has told the story when he comes on about how it spread on the Brooklyn Nets, and it spread from players to broadcasters because they're sharing the same flight, and they didn't know it. And so this is what's looming out there. Going back to something you mentioned a few moments ago about executive order and Florida's going to have schools, I think there's a canyon between returning to school and playing organized sports.
You may be right, but I do think going back to school is the very first step, David.
Well, obviously.
I mean, that's all. I mean, I've throughout all of this, I think I've been reasonably consistent of what's bothered me. It bummed me out to no end that the high school senior lost what, for me, was 2 joyous months of my life. And I felt awful for all these kids that missed that. Of all the things, the sports, whatever, that hurts us. That doesn't really hurt the athlete that's worth millions of dollars. Yeah, the tournament sucked for some of those kids, for the FGCU types that didn't get in. But I felt badly for the high school athlete. And now we're coming to another year where maybe high school seniors don't play football, and what a big deal that is to all of those kids. And yesterday, I got a little bit of news that I took as good news. I don't know if it is yet. I really don't. But it was the first step in which I looked at it and went, well, Florida's going to give this a run. Not that that should shock anybody by any stretch of the imagination. We are Sweden, after all.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise. Florida's going to give it a shot.
But that's, I'm like, well, that's one step closer to maybe high school football players playing. And you're right. The soccer is the biggest story from a team sport aspect. We've eliminated a team from the MLS. We've wanted relegation in U.S. sports forever. We did not know it was going to take a pandemic to start creating that, David.
Don't you think that the key indicator with high school sports is when they allow them to practice?
Yes.
If they allow them to practice.
Yes.
I mean, there's no reason to allow a fall sports team, soccer, football, whatever the sport may be in high school. There is no reason to allow them to practice unless the intention is to play. And no reason. Why run the risk of the coronavirus? of injury. I mean, just why? I mean, if we're not going to play, there's no reason to get them together in practice. There's no reason to bring the coaches, who obviously are all older,
No, but
also into the equation.
But I think as much as, and you know this, David, as much as the coaches control at the next levels, the high school coaches, we know a bunch of them. This is the time of the year that these guys are just chomping at the bit.
Yep.
They're so excited. The newness of a high school football season is everything to these coaches and to their players who have waited. So you're right, David, but they're all trying so desperately in meetings with, I'm sure, their principals and athletic departments to try to figure out, well, you know, we start reporting for football here in a couple of weeks. What are we going to do? We start reporting for band in a couple of weeks. What are we going to do? Cheerleading, cross country. It goes on and on and on.
Yep. Are we going to have, if we play, are we going to have fans? I mean, we talk about how big of a revenue deal it is for pro sports and college sports. You could argue that in terms of overall percentage and significance, it is more important for high schools around the country to have fans at their game than it is even for colleges and pro teams to have fans at their games. I mean, athletic departments are bankrolled to a large degree off of the high school football gate.
Just take this into account. There are 2 bands in Collier County at 2 high schools that both have over, I believe, 200 people in each band. They could not, at these high schools, social distance beyond the bands and have people at the game. I say that because when there's 200 band members, that means there's damn near one parent probably showing up at every game just to watch the halftime.
Well, that's if we allow them in.
That doesn't even get to a parent of a football player or a cheerleader or the student body at large. Yes, David, you're absolutely right. Football departments bankroll every single athletic department at an institution in this country at the high school level, too.
And you wonder if that actually gets factored into the equation, because not that they will say it publicly, but you could see where an athletic director, you could see where someone running a school district might say, you know, turn and look around and go, everybody's phone's off. Anybody going to repeat this? But if we can't have fans at these games, I don't know if we should play, because we'll bankrupt ourselves. Are we sure we want to do that? You know, what's the point of winning the battle and losing the war, so to speak? All right. And while we're convinced, you know, colleges have ways to make the revenue up, and they have television partners. Same, obviously, with pro sports. And, you know, quick sidebar, the NHL just did a deal yesterday in which the 2 sides agreed, hey, listen, in the next couple of years, I don't know if we're going to get back to the same revenue stream that we've had. So how about we work together on this? Keep the cap where it is. We'll defer some salaries, and you could pay us back over a 3-year period with moderate interest, and we'll work together. We're partners. There's no way to do this at the high school level. I mean, everybody in school districts knows. I mean, all of a sudden you have a tremendous amount of new expenses for 1 year. You got to make drastic cuts the next year. Budgets go up. I mean, if you can get a 5% increase in a school budget, I mean, it's like winning the Powerball. So it's another reason why. I mean, I've asked a couple of high school coaches in the last 10 days. I go, you having a season? And they both said, have no idea. These are head coaches.
Oh, and you know, it's been a couple of weeks ago. I asked a principal, and he...
No idea. Right.
And the decisions are so far above them, it's not even funny.
Right.
But it's getting to be time. That's all.
Right.
It's getting to be time.
Now,
and we don't have any answers.
My understanding, and sometimes I get my counties confused, but I thought it was Lee County that pushed back, I think, when they were going to 2 weeks for when they were going to start practice, obviously giving themselves more time. That led me to believe, don't know if the season could start on time, or at least that jamboree might have to be canceled, and maybe we just go straight into the season. What has also been brought up, we talk about it all the time in college sports, non-conference games. A non-conference game that was supposed to be played in Hawaii got canceled yesterday. Our John Cassio joked that now Hawaii and Navy both have open dates on September 12th because they've had teams cancel on them. They should probably figure out a way to play. All right. Not a bad deal. I mean, if you're Navy the week after playing Notre Dame, I think, how about a little road trip to Hawaii? It's not a bad place to spend a few days. All right. But we've got non-conference games that are likely to be canceled in college sports. Well, Mark, how enthusiastically are you going to? I mean, we have many a team on this coast that has games scheduled against teams on the other coast, and or traveling to the Tampa St. Pete area. Some even venture as far as Orlando. Hey, we got our own numbers. Are you sure you want to be getting on a bus and heading somewhere else? I mean,
I don't know.
These are,
I don't know. I mean, that's it. That's
exactly
the answer.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. Well, and what happens if they're scheduled to come to you? And they may look at us and go, I don't know if I want to send our kids there.
Oh, sure. You want to come to our beaches on the weekend, but we can't play a football game. I see how you are.
Yeah. Well, the only reason they wanted to come here is theirs were closed. But you know what I'm getting at here. You could see where those games, and a lot of times division, district, conference, however it's worded these days, those games don't usually start till around week 4, sometimes even later than that in high school football. So you wonder if the early part of the high school season is the flexible part, kind of like the early part of the college football season that we think is the flexible part, that if we need to push it back or eliminate the first couple games and just start off with conference games, that we think we could do it. And you wonder if that'll be the same philosophy with high school sports. And let's face it, the answer to all of these questions that we're posing are the same 3 words. I don't know.
And yet, depending on what side you're on, and this is where I think people get confused. We're having rallies for political figures. We're having marches all over the country. People are going to the beach in big numbers, but yet we can't go to a football game. I mean, it is.
But one could argue, and the health, quote unquote, experts would argue, that the first 3 things you mentioned we shouldn't be doing. So why in the world would we continue to do things that we're not supposed to be doing? I mean, that's.
Well, and
that's what some people are arguing. It's like, listen, if those folks want to, keep perpetuating the definition of insanity, that's bad enough, and we have to deal with that. But that doesn't mean the rest of us have to follow.
No,
and that's the fight going on right now.
I got you, and there's part of it that's not a fight. I mean, we've got. It doesn't matter whether it's a political rally, whether it's a protest, whether it's a church gathering. We're congregating in big numbers all over this country right now. But we're told what we can congregate for, and that doesn't make sense. We're not all or nothing here. We're all over the road. We're all over the map.
Right. Well, never mind the fact that we set certain rules in place, and, well, part of our charm is, maybe we'll follow it, maybe not.
David, on that note, you've got me again, because I have worked into your system. Your system throughout this pandemic, one of the things that you have done and developed that I think should take all credit for is the nighttime grocery shop. Very early on, you said, hey, I go on Tuesday nights. Well, last night we were out of 2 things that are important to this household. And the third being my wife was a little, past half a tank on gas, but she's got a big work week. I said, I'll take your car to Costco. I'll fill your tank up. I'll get the things we need. And there was no one in there. I had put the daughter to bed. It was after 8 o'clock. I was, they closed at 9. I walked in at 8:10. I was out at 8:25. And yet one jackass Muscle-bound guy, thought a lot of himself. You could just tell by the way he acted. Went in with the mask because you have to wear one, and then proceeded to not wear one through the store. I don't get it. I don't get it. And then you look at his girlfriend or wife, and she just had this look of terror on her face because she knew he should have one on. I don't get it. But to your credit, David, nighttime grocery shopping is a winner chicken dinner.
It really is. And not only that, you picked the Monday after 4th of July weekend when people had loaded up on food and what have you. I mean, it got to be one of the slowest Monday nights of the year, I would think, of grocery shopping. 479-5551, 479-5551. Who knows? Might end up being a poll question, but curious as to whether or not would you go to a high school football game? Are you planning? How about that? Are you planning on going to a high school football game this fall? If they let you, would you go? Just curious. Obviously, they'll be outdoors. I could see where maybe they'd put some limits as to how many people. They might not allow the place to be packed anymore. They might want to try to have some semblance of social distancing. They may determine our capacity is 1,000 or whatever it is. Something like that. So it could be first come, first serve or reserve tickets or whatever. But, Mark, going back almost 3 months now, one of the points that I harped on was if we get to now and it's still in doubt, to me, there's only two options. It's either or. And goodness knows I can slice an onion really thin and usually come up with 37 scenarios. But to me, it's either or. Either you're allowing fans or you're not. And remember, fans got to pay. No one's making you go.
And that, David, has been what I was on this about. If we're going to the beach and we're going to the lake in Michigan and we're going to protest and we're going to church and we're going to rallies, you mean I can't pay with my own money to go watch a football game? And David,
but the school district may decide no.
But I mean,
or only so many of you.
The hockey and basketball, I get, it's indoors.
Yep.
But baseball and football, with the way we are outdoors everywhere right now.
However, if you're a local school district, and I don't just mean in the 239, if you're a local school district and you're watching Major League Baseball being played with no fans, outdoors in most every instance, but being played with no fans, are you going to take the grief in some cases of going, yeah, but we're going to have fans at ours? And I mean, you could see where somebody would go, hold on a second. Major League Baseball doesn't feel it's safe enough to have fans, but you think it's safe enough to have fans at our games with my kid? Somebody's going to stand up at the back of a meeting room and say that. So,
and there's youth sports being played right now, David.
I know. But you're right. I mean, the first step that had to happen happened in Florida yesterday. Executive order, kids are going back to school in August. Well, there were certainly not going to be any sports. I mean, high school sports was not going to try what college sports is going to try here. I mean, because now we got major universities. USC did it late last week.
Yep.
Harvard did it yesterday, in which they're only going to have online classes. By the way, Harvard said for the entire school year.
And they said they're not giving a break on tuition.
Correct.
Excuse me?
Correct.
Excuse me.
$50,000. $50K. Couple hundred short of $50K. Yep. Sorry.
Wow.
Yep. Let's see how long you can get away with that. 1 year tops. I'm telling you, that once again, a coronavirus year. Okay, we've all had our lives turned upside down. We're all going to look back and go, oh, yeah, that was the coronavirus year. All right, so Okay. Now, I'm assuming you don't have to pay for housing and the meal plan and all that, so that's partly why the university's like, we need to get every dollar we can.
I don't know, David. Where are you supposed to live if you don't live on if you live on campus? Where are you going to go?
I don't think you can live on campus.
Okay.
Well, they can't make you live on campus. I mean, come
on. I don't know, David, because I'm not checked into the whole Harvard thing. But if you're an incoming freshman that lives in California going to Harvard, where are you supposed to live? You don't think they're living on campus?
No, I don't. I don't see how they could make them. I mean, I'm taking it online. I could do this anywhere. Literally, I could do this anywhere. I could spend a year in India, okay, and go to Harvard for the year. I mean, no, my hours will be messed up, but all I need is a great Wi-Fi, right? A laptop and a great Wi-Fi, and I can go to school for the year.
Okay, according to the Harvard Gazette, just so you know, Harvard to bring 40% of undergrads to campus this fall.
40%?
40%.
That's interesting. How many of the 40% play sports?
Miller and Moulton. Starting 5 on the other side. We'll have a poll question. You will not have to play golf with Bryson DeChambeau or Patrick Reed, we promise.
But do you want to be part of the 40% or the 60%? That's the other thing. Hey, I don't want to come. How do I get to stay home? That's it. Don't you find that part of it interesting?
Yes, David. And I don't find it shocking. However, got to make their money.
Yeah, well, we did say that. The entire system depends on it.
Miller and Moulton. Thanks for listening. The Starting 5 next on Fox Sports Radio.
What time is it? There are times when we do this.
It is
That's a weird number to come up with.
Crazy. There are other times when we do this.
I would never be doing something to make me look stupid. I mean, on purpose.
And how do they determine
there are times when we do
who has to be on campus?
All agree now. Yes.
No. It's not possible. No.
When these
That's
times
weird.
go down,
Because the college will address gaps in students' home learning environments and identify those who need to return to campus to continue progress academically. Because you can't learn not on campus.
Well, it could be also for international students, because immigration yesterday said, if you're an international student and your school decides to go online for the year, you need to leave the country. So I wonder if that's to keep their international students still enrolled.
Do you have a light in that room? Because you look like you're in the dark.
Yeah. I have one light on, but not both.
You can drive payment-free for 3 months or interest-free for 6 years. And worry-free up to 100,000 miles. And our parts service and body shop are open to serve you. Summer clearance event at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, 1/2 mile south of Daniels Parkway on US 41 in Fort Myers. Open every day, including Sunday. Call 239-481-2600. GallianaCars.com. Gotta go to Galliana. 42 month lease, 10,000 miles per year, $19.99 to sign plus tax, tag title, dealer and acquisition fee, 0 security deposit, $13.88 per month per thousand borrowed for 72 months at 0 APR with 0 down with lender approval, offers no combined.
Pool need a checkup? Call the doctor, the Pool Doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. Your old pool pump is an energy hog and likely your second greatest user of electricity. We'll install a new Pentair energy efficient pump, saving you over $500 a year. We're a family company. And for over 40 years, we've been doing business right.
The prescription is the Pool Doctor for award-winning pool service, repairs, and unheard of $39 diagnostic calls. That's mypooldoctor.com or 239-574-1133. State certified CPC 057088.
listen to the Dan Patrick Show at work.
Never boring, that's for sure.
Streaming 24/7 at foxsportsfm.com.
We are Fox Sports.
No matter where you're boating, with Towboat US, you're covered by the world's largest towing fleet with over 300 ports nationwide. Your local Towboat US companies in Charlotte, Lee, and Collier counties are here to help 24/7, 365 days a year. Inland, the river to Lake O, and out 75 nautical miles. And new membership pricing starts as low as $99. Call 239-945-1664 for more information. Or visit towboatuscapecoral.com. With Towboat US, you're never stuck on the water.
Tonight on Wink News at 6.
People that sit there and say, well, it's defund the police. They want a quick answer. Not that simple.
Fort Myers Police Chief Derek Diggs brings a unique personal story and perspective to the debate over getting rid of police departments. Tonight on
Getting rid of police
you
departments.
can't afford to miss what Chief Diggs tells Wink safety and security expert Richard
What we do,
Coco.
David.
I'm the lawman that I always wanted to be, and I will continue.
Hey,
to be
Lindsey
the
Graham
lawman.
came out and supported
Tonight
Bubba
on
Wallace
Weekly
yesterday.
News
That's
at
a pretty
6.
big step. And the White House didn't have an official stance on the Confederate flag.
Dan Martineau here, owner of DR Martineau Roofing of Southwest
They're
Florida.
not against
I've been
it.
repairing and replacing roofs for 27 years. We operate with integrity, knowledge, and service. Google DRM Roofing or call 239-332-1441.
License number CCC 1326954.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is DR Martineau.
Hardee's presents the new Spicy Western Bacon Cheeseburger. It's just like the Western Bacon Cheeseburger with charbroiled beef, crispy bacon and onion rings, and topped with tangy barbecue sauce. But we added spicy jalapenos and melty pepper jack cheese. We took a burger that was already delicious and spiced it up. Why are we using this whip crack to explain it? Because jalapenos sound like this. Try the new Spicy Western Bacon Cheeseburger at Hardee's. Feed your happy. Limited time only at participating Hardee's restaurants. Price and participation may vary. Hardee's presents the Southwest Omelet, Biscuit, and Burrito. Wanted in 42 states on charges of bringing a sweat to the brow of breakfast lovers with low spice tolerance. We start with a made-from-scratch biscuit. And then we add a fluffy omelet full of melted cheese, crispy bacon, and spicy jalapenos. And if you're
I don't know
feeling
who
extra
leaves their
wild,
Social
you can
Security
get it
card in
all
their
wrapped
car.
up in a burrito. The Southwest
Thieves
Omelet,
steal
Biscuit, and
iPhones,
Burrito
Social
are back.
Security cards, and
Only
more
at
from
Hardee's.
Bonita Beach parking
Feed
lot.
your happy.
Here's a
Limited
thought.
time
Maybe
only at
don't keep your
participating
Social
Hardee's
Security card in your
restaurants.
car.
Now back to Miller and
Depends on
Moulton.
who the person is. They may need it on them.
This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
"27 minutes before the hour. Thanks so much for being with us, Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Streaming the Miller and Moulton Show once again on millerandmoulton.com and broadcasting live once again on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channel. Sign up for them. They're interactive and they're free. You can chime in via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line, 479-5551, 479-5551. A lot went down in the sports world yesterday. Time now for
The starting five. Five big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton Starting Five. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Patrick Mahomes got paid. It's a 10-year, $450 million extension. He will play this year for $2.8 million and 2021 for his fifth-year option that was picked up on his rookie contract of $24.8 million. So Mahomes makes $27.6 million over the next 2 years. And then his 10-year, $450 million contract kicks in. The 450 mark could be as much as 503 with certain incentives, like MVP. I think he makes $1.5 million a year. If he leads the Chiefs to at least the AFC Championship game or wins it, that's worth another $1.5 million. So full no trade clause, $140 million injury guarantee. The first 3 years, he gets $83 million in bonuses that are fully guaranteed. There are no opt-outs unless certain guaranteed mechanisms, it's their language, not mine, certain guaranteed mechanisms in the contract don't kick in and don't happen. Then I guess there is a chance that Mahomes could opt out. But a guy who turns 25 in mid-September has essentially signed the next 12 years of his career to the Kansas City Chiefs. He'll reach free agency, I believe, when he's 36 years old. It's the richest contract in pro sports history, at least in this country.
I mean, doesn't it have to be our poll question today? Who's the winner? Mahomes, the Chiefs, both. That's an unprecedented football contract.
It's an unprecedented pro sports contract. I mean, it surpasses Mike Trout's deal with the Angels, although Trout's deal is fully guaranteed.
Right. And I think most folks believe that long-term baseball contracts are not in the best interest of the baseball team.
Although you got to give the Angels credit, they at least signed Trout when he was in his 20s.
No doubt. But of all of the long-term contracts signed in baseball, this may be the only one that people don't have a problem with. Whether it was Cabrera or Stanton or Harper or Pujols or on and on and on, they typically did not work for the team. But Drew Brees and Tom Brady are playing football into their 40s at the quarterback position. Mm-hmm. This guy is the heir apparent, and they have him locked in until his 36th birthday.
$450, 10 years. Obviously, that's $45 million a year on average for those 10 years. And, you know, there were a lot of people that were wondering, boy, did he have to sign 10 years?
No.
I mean, could have signed 5, 6, 7 and taken another bite of the apple and see where the revenues are. And you figure he probably wouldn't make any less money than what he is signing on for now. But clearly he said, hey, don't want to go anywhere. This is what I want to do. Who knows? Could be my last contract. I mean, he may have signed his last contract at 24.
And really, his only contract. Because your rookie deal is not a contract. You're signing what you're signing what you're being told to sign based on where you were drafted. Your slot is worth X. Period. End of sentence.
That's it.
So this is the only, this could be, David, the only contract, and Lee Steinberg was his agent, is the only contract that his group ever negotiates for him.
Correct.
And there's no doubt that if he signed a 5-year deal and was up, he left money on the table. But he could get hurt. Lots of other things could happen.
How will this affect the Deshaun Watson negotiations and contract with the Texans? How will it affect Dak with the Cowboys? Reportedly, what is holding up Dak and the Cowboys? The Cowboys want a longer-term deal than what Dak wants. Dak wants no more than 4 years. Cowboys want 5. So the good news for Dak, Mahomes just took the bar and really raised it. There's a lot of room between where Dak Prescott is going to be this year and Mahomes taking the ceiling and moving it up. I mean, he moved it up a lot. There's a lot more room now for Dak to get a little bit more money. And then you got the Cowboys going, yeah, did you pay attention to how long that extension is there, Dak?
And did you happen to see the trophy that he hoisted at the end of the season? It's called the Lombardi Trophy. Dak, I'm not sure because no one in Dallas has seen or heard from that in decades.
All right, 25 years. I got one in my case, though. If you want to go downstairs on the way out, you can take a look at it. I'll make you a deal right now. You win me one of those, I'll give you a Mahomes contract, just so you know. Major League Baseball released its schedule yesterday. On Thursday, July 23rd, so 2 weeks from Thursday, we'll have Yankees-Nats at 7 o'clock and then Giants-Dodgers at 10 o'clock. And then everybody else will play the next day. For the record, on Friday the 24th, the Rays will host the Jays, and the Marlins will be in Philadelphia to take on the Phillies. We mentioned it earlier. FC Dallas has been removed from the MLS's back tournament, which is to begin tomorrow because, well, they got too many players who have tested positive for the coronavirus. They've been in Orlando since June 27th. Since then, 10 players and a staff member have tested positive. And while that's a lot on any team, when you consider that the whole rest of the MLS has had only 3 positive tests, you could see why the MLS said to FC Dallas, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. You caught a bad break here, but you guys all got to go home and quarantine there. So there will be 25 teams remaining in the MLS's back tournament, which is scheduled to get underway tomorrow in Orlando, which I believe is also the date that the Raptors, I think, leave town and head to Orlando. Some teams are getting there today. I think the Raptors leave tomorrow. Baseball news, Mark. Nashville wants a team.
They've wanted a team for a while.
Well, they've formed a group and hired former Red Sox general manager Dave Dombrowski to be part of it. And the Music City Baseball Group, and they want to be a Major League Baseball team. Now, baseball has repeatedly said they want to go from 30 to 32, but they want to get the A's and Rays stadium situations resolved first. If you're Major League Baseball and you've got Montreal and you've got Nashville and potentially Portland, and you got cities that are willing to pay the hundreds of millions of dollars in expansion fees that you are going to request from them, you're going to keep dilly-dallying around with this A's and Rays stadium situation?
Put it this way, David, there's 28 other owners that are going to force your hand, because the type of checks that ownership receive when new teams come into the league. I worked in the IHL for a while and in the East Coast Hockey League for quite a while. Teams lied, essentially, that they were making money for years because expansion fees kept coming in to make it look a lot better than it was. And when their Major League Baseball expansion fees, teams get paid.
Right. And think about you're an owner, and you've gone through everything you've gone through this year, and you're going to lose money this year. You want to know a way a couple years down the road to make that up? A nice big check from the Music City Baseball Committee.
I mean, what are they going to get per team in baseball?
Oh, I think they're going to get close to $30 million. I think the expansion fees are going to be close to $1 billion.
That's what I'm saying. So you're talking each.
Yeah.
Each. That's $2 billion when they add 2 teams. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think because take a look at what the expansion fees have been in hockey here recently. All right. Well, you got to figure. I mean, Mark,
look what the Clippers sold for.
Well, that's what they sold for. But in terms of an expansion fee, which, I mean, that's a lot of. I mean, we've talked about having to buy a personal seat license and the money you have to pay up front just to be able to have the right to then purchase the tickets to sit there. Well, when you got to, Mark, you got to figure it's a minimum $600 million check. That's $20 million a team.
Right.
Minimum. So I figure teams will make at the low end $20 million, at the high end $30 million. And that's just for Nashville. Then they'll make it again with Montreal or Portland or whoever the other team's going to be. So you could see, and this could be looming in the next CBA negotiations also. Because the players right now, they don't get any of that. They don't get any of the expansion fees. We mentioned it earlier. The NHL, not only did the NHL and the Players Association agree on Phase 3 and Phase 4 and how they're going to do this whole rollout, but they also agreed to a 4-year extension of their current CBA, which still had 2 more years to run. Some of the goodies for hockey fans that are in it. They agree on what next year's cap's going to be. It's going to be the same as it was this year. In fact, the cap will stay at $81.5 million until the league's revenues return to what the projected revenues were going to be for this year. So if it takes the NHL a couple years to get back to where they were pre the coronavirus, well, the cap will remain at that figure. Players have agreed to roll back, in some cases, the big money guys anyway, 10% of their salaries to go back. The owners don't have to pay it right now. You can pay it down the road in 3-year installments with a little bit of interest. And also, Mark, the NHL and their players have agreed to return to the Olympics in 2022 and 2026.
Hey, not for nothing, because most of you don't pay attention. The pandemic and the NHL have done well by one another.
Yes.
They got a CBA done. They waited around the longest. And maybe going to the safest spots possible for their restart compared to the other sports out there. If they could fix their draft lottery, we'd be all set. Because
Right.
David's Rangers, if they don't make the playoffs, should end up with the first overall pick. I mean, David is in a quandary right now because he wants his team to make the playoffs because they could do some damage. They were playing pretty well at the end of the abbreviated season here. However, we already know that a team that misses the playoffs in one of these play-in games is going to get the first overall pick.
Correct.
And the difference between the first overall pick and the next 4 is monumental in this draft. There is a special player coming out, and he could be a New York Ranger. So that is the dilemma that one David Moulton has.
Missed out on Crosby, missed out on Lindros. All right.
Missed out on Matthews. I mean, you missed out on all of them.
Right. 1 cup in 80 years. All right. Absolutely. So you add it all up. Patrick Mahomes got paid, and the NHL has a deal and a whole lot in between. And that mark is
the starting 5. 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton starting 5. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
13 minutes before the hour. Miller and Moulton, thanks for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program.
This is the Dan Patrick Show.
Talked a little bit about the Maguire-Sosa documentary, and I think if this was
my son has
we'd probably go, oh,
pledged his loyalty to your Rangers for the next couple of years because he's got nothing to root for.
Why? Why can't he root for Carolina?
Hates Carolina.
Why?
Hates Carolina. Least favorite team in the league. Dumb hockey fans. Bandwagon, that stuff, you know. He's been a hockey fan his whole life, so when they jump on and don't know anything, Carolina fans drive him nuts.
So, in other words, he then looked at the rest of the original 6 and said, I'm going to pick one of them?
Well, he's still a diehard Wings fan, but someone asked him the other day, he goes, well, what, you could even watch for the next year? He's like, yeah.
Oh, because they're playing Carolina in the play-in series, so that's why he's rooting.
And then he says, no, I'm into the Rangers. Let's go Rangers. And if they get the kid here that's in the draft, he's like, I'm good for the Rangers as well.
We also carry the Cortex Stone product. Looks like tile, looks like stone, but it's Cortex, so you get the softness, quietness, and the easy installation to go with it. We also have Cortex wood, look of wood, real wood, but with a more
I dropped the summer hammer yesterday. There's no more teaching going on. There's a little bit of cleaning. I told the daughter, I said, I'm watching a show. You can go to your room and watch a show. Watched a great documentary yesterday on Dwayne Allman. Unbelievable.
Dial star 2020. Friends, I care.
Do you panic when someone says we need to talk? Well, here it goes. We need to talk, but don't panic. This is the good kind of talk. Those glasses and contacts you're sporting, they're just in the way of you having the freedom to enjoy a more flexible lifestyle. France Eye Care wants to offer you $1,000 off bilateral LASIK, a savings that will allow you to celebrate better vision and a better life. Dr. Jonathan France and his
I got a little something here, David.
Help you see your future in 2020 through the advanced.
You want to do that poll question for Mahomes?
So what if you've been told you're not a candidate for LASIK? France Eye Care wants you to know.
Yeah, do we want to put an option in that both lose?
Yeah, that's fine.
So winner, Chiefs, Mahomes, both?
Neither.
Neither.
It's time for you to experience better vision and a better life. Dial star 2020 from your mobile phone.
Friends, I care.
Looking for a frameless shower door? My Shower Door has just opened their 8th Florida showroom, and it's conveniently located in Cape Coral. With more than 75,000 frameless shower doors installed, no one has more experience and 5-star reviews than My Shower Door. We've been named #1 by readers of the News Press and Naples News for 17 consecutive years and have just been named as Lee County's Manufacturer of the Year. Want to see more? Go to myshowerdor.com.
Listen to Miller and Moulton at home on your Amazon.
Who's the winner in the Chiefs-Mahomes contract? Mahomes, Chiefs, both, neither. Done. Up.
Play Fox Sports FM.
Look at that.
Tune in.
We are Fox Sports.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Dan Martineau here, owner of D.R. Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida.
A better question might be, did Dan Martineau buy a good jingle or a great jingle?
Inspection. Google DRM Roofing.
I think this was worth the $3,000 that you get pumped for a jingle, David.
License number CCC
I agree.
1326954.
Dan Martineau or Access Satellite?
Ooh.
I'm going to go Martineau close because I don't like the Access Satellite singers, but I know the jingle.
With over 300 ports nationwide, your local Towboat U.S. companies in Charlotte, Lee, and Collier counties are here to help 24/7, 365 days a year. Inland, the river to Lake O, and out 75 nautical miles.
Best local jingle ever for those of you in the Twitch chat room?
Call 239-945-1664 for more information, or visit Towboat.
Zoomtan does not count. That's a national company.
Towboat U.S. You're never stuck on the water.
Now back to Miller and Moulton.
All right, now we're getting somewhere.
Still need to know the flooring company. That
Told you.
company,
Come on, that was
I know.
funny.
That's funny. I laughed. I laughed.
You're
out
live.
loud. 8 minutes before 7 o'clock on this first Tuesday of July. It is the 7th of the month. Thanks so much for being with us, Miller and Moulton. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com and broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. You can chime in via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line, which is 479-5551, 479-5551.
Big stuff going on during the commercial breaks as I was trying to break down local jingles and what I think the best one is out there.
Right.
As David and I were going back and forth, because yesterday he asked me a question about a sponsor, and I gave him an answer of a sponsor from a good 12 years ago.
Yeah,
I didn't know who
8 to 10.
I didn't know who he was asking for, but I remembered one that they're not even in business anymore.
Yeah, they are, actually.
Oh, they're back, huh?
Yeah.
They go in and out and around. So I simply fired that one at David, knowing it wasn't the answer, but it would get a laugh out of it. And then I got silence for the rest of the day. Not a damn thing. And this was after yesterday. David and I had about a 3-minute chat, and he said to me, hey, my computer's going to restart here at 9:06, so I'm probably going to lose you. So at 9:06, I lost him. And I'm like, we're done. And the phone rang, and it was David. And we did our first 92.5 show in years. Got off the phone after 10 o'clock yesterday. David and I did an hour of politics on my back porch. And I think David was in a good mood after. We hadn't done one of those in a long time. Twitch makes David very nervous to go politics.
Yes, very much so. Want to keep politics away from the show as much as possible.
Our poll question, sorry, David, nothing near political, but it has everything to do with the contract signed by one Patrick Mahomes. Who is the winner in this big contract, in the Chiefs-Mahomes contract? Who wins? Mahomes? Chiefs? Both? Neither.
I do think it's a win-win contract.
I'm with you. I lean both as my first gut instinct to that question, David.
I think it's a bigger win for the Chiefs. And think about that, if I'm right. They just agreed to pay someone the largest contract in the history of North American sports. And I think that they made out pretty darn well in the deal. Because, and I don't know what this adds up to, but remember, we'll say it again. He's playing this year for 2.8, and he's playing next year for just under 25. Now, remember, you got 15 quarterbacks who will be making more in 2021 than Patrick Mahomes will.
But that's not the Chiefs or Patrick Mahomes' fault. There's nothing that can be done about that.
Right. I mean, they could tear it up.
Yeah, but nobody does.
Makes sense. Right. And so then now they're going to start paying them. Well, don't you figure, I mean, Mark, if the first year that they have to start paying him, and I don't know what the salaries are when they break down.
But you got to figure it starts at 40.
Yes, and I was going to just say, since he has to wait 2 years for it, let's just say it's 42. Don't you give him a $2 million raise a year for the next 9 years? I mean, that's less than 5%, by the way. So don't, then do the math. 42, 44. It makes the final year of his contract, he's making $60 million.
Okay, but there's a couple of things that I thought of with this contract right off the bat, David. One of the things we'd been discussing with Pat Kerwin for quite a while was simply, what are they going to do with next year's cap? They're taking a big hit, and what if they had to reduce the cap by 20, 30%? This contract shows me that they're not going to. That was the very first thing I thought of. They're not going to, the Chiefs are smart enough not to get buried next year or the year after because we're getting out of coronavirus pandemic. And I'm with you. If anything, I think this is a both and leaning towards the Chiefs. Such a difference between football and baseball, isn't it?
Yes.
1 minute.
Well, and also, he's 24.
And he's a quarterback.
And he doesn't turn 25 for 10 more weeks.
But, I mean, you think in baseball, he's up 4 times a game. He's pitching once every 5 days. This is the quarterback. He's touching the ball in half the plays.
So his contract extension kicks in the season he turns 27. And then we'll take him through the season in which he ends up, finishing at the age of 36, which is the age that Aaron Rodgers is now. And how much football do we think Aaron Rodgers has left? I mean, Mark, he could get done with his 10-year, $450 million deal, and he could sign a 4-year, by that point in time, he might sign a 4-year, $250 million deal for the final 4 years of his career.
Miller and Moulton, Fox Sports Radio. Right. His 2-year Brady deal with Tampa at 36, David, could be 2 for 120.
Volunteered to help law enforcement all across the area and the Attorney General programs to
I mean, think about it. He signs the Brady contract with Tampa at the end of this. It's 2 for 120.
For looking out for the people of Southwest Florida, from being called names to having the bad guys sue or threaten to sue me to get me to shut up so that you won't know the facts about their scams. To me, it was all worth it to help protect you, the most important people in our world. I'll never cower to the bad guys, and I'll always look out for my friends and neighbors in Southwest Florida. It's one of the main reasons we say what we say in our slogan, Kobe, the most trusted name in this business since 1949. I'm doing it the way my dad did it, and my kids will follow suit. License CACO 57313.
Receiving. Over.
Alexa, play Fox Sports FM on TuneIn.
LeBron has shown his greatness. Kevin Durant's a better player.
Sorry, I don't know that one.
Smart speaker.
Are we cheering for idiots? What's going on?
Sounds more like a dumb speaker, am I right?
You're an idiot. Nice job.
Get Southwest Florida sports talk delivered to your speaker.
This is easy.
Just say, Alexa,
hello.
Play Fox Sports FM on TuneIn.
Finally, something worthwhile.
I didn't think it was going to be this easy.
We are Fox Sports.
Pool need a checkup? Call the doctor, the Pool Doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. Do the math. Taking care of your pool is probably not a good use of your time and money. Free $50 Bonefish gift certificates when you sign up for one of our award-winning weekly service plans. We're a family company, and for over 40 years, we've been doing business right.
The prescription is the Pool Doctor for award-winning pool service, repairs, and unheard of $39 diagnostic calls. That's mypooldoctor.com or 239-574-1133. State certified CPC 057088.
WFSX AM from Naples to Cape Coral and all of Southwest Florida. 103.3 Fox Sports Radio. We are Fox Sports. Here's what's trending now. Brought to you by the Center for Men's Health. C4MH.com. There's only one way to wake up in the morning.
How the heck are you?
Yep, that's it. Miller.
You know what? I'll try to bring you back some fish.
And Moulton.
Okay, you drop it off at the front door.
Probably in the mailbox. We'll pack ice.
Broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote Studios, where it's always cool and comfortable.
Yes! Oh, I like
It's up to you now. It's up to you.
I like it.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Couple minutes past 7 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. Thanks so much for being with us, Miller and Moulton. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. We stream the show at millerandmoulton.com, and we broadcast it also on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. You can chime in via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line 479-5551, 479-5551. We'll talk a little soccer. You heard me correctly, ladies and gentlemen. We will talk a little soccer at the bottom of the hour because the Mahomes contract's going to get all the oxygen in the sports world today. But the story that could be a precursor for something that we see in the coming months is what's taking place in the MLS, where they removed a team from their tournament that is to begin tomorrow in Orlando because there's been an outbreak of the coronavirus within the team. So bye-bye, so long, farewell. We'll play the rest of the year without you. And if it can happen with a soccer team in Orlando, you don't think it could happen with one of the 22 NBA teams that are all arriving this week? Thank you very much.
It goes without saying, but we've talked about this throughout the pandemic and when season starts. Seth has kind of been the big one, Seth Everett, who joins us every Wednesday on the show. He said, guys, I don't know what to tell you. These guys aren't going to listen. And he's talked to baseball players who agree with him. I mean, this isn't just Seth out on a whim. These are other athletes who played for years in the sport going, I don't know what to tell you. They're not going to be confined. How difficult do you think it is for a coach right now to just sit there in a team meeting and say, look at Dallas and the soccer? Guys, I know what you want to do. You can't. You've got to stay in the bubble. Please stay in this bubble. Do you realize that if you escape the bubble, we might not play and not have a shot at a title? I mean, Nick Nurse must be awake at nights worrying if players are leaving the hotel. I swear to you, David, problems that coaches never thought they had to worry about, they're panicking about right now.
Well, as best we have been told, people are bringing it up how well the Raptors' trip to Southwest Florida has gone. People are very encouraged because, obviously the Magic and the Heat have been in Florida, but no one else has been in Florida leading up to this. They've all been where their practice facilities are, and they are all flying into Orlando this week. But because of what was going on north of the border, the Raptors made arrangements when they did to come to Florida because there was a travel ban and 2-week quarantine. And so they said, well, listen, we can't kind of congregate in Toronto, at least not when we need to. So we'll go to Southwest Florida. I got a house there. I know people. We can get a gym. Everything will be fine. And as best we can tell, the Heat have had 3 players test positive. All right. Other teams have had problems. The Raptors, with staying in a hotel, busing to the gym, following the guidelines as to how they can work out and or practice, get back on the bus, go back to the hotel, stay in the hotel. Knock on wood.
Now just think about all of the problems, and sorry I interrupted you there, Dave, but just think of all of the areas where a problem could occur. The hotel workers go back home every night. The bus driver goes back home every night. Whoever's preparing their food goes back home every night. The cleaners at Alico Arena go back home every night. The peanut vendors go back home every night. But
what?
Sorry, I just had a slap shot moment. The peanut vendors standing up to him, and I'd be standing up to him if I could. Sorry, I just did. So all of the things that could go wrong here, fortunately, thus far, have not for the Raptors. But we're going to try to do this with 30 teams in all these hotels with all these workers. I mean, it seems like a recipe for disaster.
But it's worked for 2 weeks with the Raptors here in Southwest Florida.
We'll test the hygienic response of the Orlando area versus the Southwest Florida area in coming weeks. Do we wash our hands better in Naples, folks?
479-5551, 479-5551. Your thoughts on Patrick Mahomes getting paid? There's a lot that I like about this. First off, Mark, you and I have always been in favor of, athletes getting what they can. Secondly, though, there was no contract holdout here. He's under contract for 2 more years. He didn't demand, hey, I got to get taken care of or else we're going to have issues. Now I give Dak Prescott credit. He could have made life a lot more difficult on the Cowboys this offseason, but he said, I'm going to sign my tender, whether we work something out or not, and I'm going to be there on July 27th or whenever it is that I can first show up. I'm going to be there. I'm not going to hold out. All right. We got things we got to do. But Mahomes, just said, hey, I want to stay here. They want to keep me. We'll work it out. Whether it's before the year, during the year, after the year, we'll work it out where it's good for everybody. It'll be good for the Chiefs, for the cap. It'll be good for me. We will work this out. And they did.
Couple of things. One, gentleman put out a little stat here, and there's so many different quarterback ratings, but there's active streaks of a 50-plus QBR rating. Right now, the active streaks in the National Football League are Deshaun Watson at 3, Russell Wilson at 3, Derek Carr at 4, Matthew Stafford at 9, and Patrick Mahomes at 36. Including playoffs, Patrick Mahomes has started 36 games. So according to this statistic, he's never had a bad game. That's the first thing. Secondly, what I would really love to know, David, and don't know if a Heitner or an Andrew Brandt or one of those guys could give me, or Darren Ravel might be the best person to go to with this. But the fact now is that Patrick Mahomes is going to essentially play for one team for his entire career. Yes, at the back end, he could pull a Brady. I get it. Not discounting what can happen at 36. But his career is going to be paid as a Chief. How much more financially lucrative is that from a marketing standpoint than a guy that hops around? And I don't know the answer to that, but I would believe, David, that loyalty to a team would pay off from a branding standpoint, as he tries to pull his inner Bryson DeChambeau and protect his brand. Don't you believe, David, that your brand is better protected playing for one team throughout your career?
Mark, and I don't know if this answers that question, but as you were laying it out, I was thinking to myself, if you are the Chiefs and you have Patrick Mahomes, remember, no trade clause in the contract. You have him for 12 years. There has to be a couple of crazy things happen where certain clauses don't kick in for there to be an opt-out situation for Mahomes. So if you are the Chiefs, you are operating under the assumption that you have Patrick Mahomes for the entire decade that is to come in the first 2 years of the 2030s. Don't you think you can make, knowing that you have that, your fan base knows it,
right?
Your community knows it,
right?
From a money standpoint, don't you think you can literally make up the value of his contract back off the field during the length of the contract. Forget what he gives you on the field. Forget the wins and losses and the yards and the whole deal. Off the field, don't you think you can make that money all the way back?
David, you never have to worry about an ad campaign, a billboard campaign, a season ticket campaign, what jersey I'm going to put up in the damn window.
Nope.
And that's, I was thinking Derek Jeter in terms of marketability.
Yeah.
And I know it's New York to Kansas City, but the NFL is its unique machine that doesn't need New York.
Not at all.
Baseball does.
Yeah.
Basketball, even to a large degree, it's a star-driven sport, but trust me, LeBron's more popular playing for the Lakers than he is the Cavs. It's the way that sport's always been. The NFL has never needed that. Brett Favre was a megastar, and he played in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Aaron Rodgers has State Farm commercials being the quarterback, also in
And
Green
who's
Bay,
he doing
Wisconsin.
the State Farm commercials with now? Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
He's the face of the league. And I have to believe, and I would love to find out from a Heitner or a Ravel or an Andrew Brandt what that's worth, David, to stay with one franchise. I've got to believe it's worth something.
And can you imagine that you're a fan? We will talk to Soren Petro about it coming up at the top of the hour, because we started to broach this subject with him during the Chiefs' run and leading in Super Bowl week about, hey, you've got the guy. And with the exception of maybe a year, 1980 really, in Major League Baseball, George Brett's flirting with 400 and hitting 390 and taking the Royals to the World Series for the first time. With the exception of 1980, this market has never had the single biggest figure in sports. And while LeBron is still bigger because he's been around a lot longer, in 5 years, we're not going to have Breeze, we're not going to have Brady, and we may not also have LeBron.
I don't think we will.
I think LeBron's going to want to hang around long enough to play with his son. So I think we're going to get 5 more years of LeBron, but I don't think we'll get 7, if you know what I mean. So by the end of this decade, we will not have LeBron. And we will have a 31-year-old Patrick Mahomes, who in all likelihood is the single biggest thing in North American sports. And he's living and working in Kansas City. And they've literally never had that before.
Nope.
And now they know. I mean, just imagine. I mean, this isn't something you talk about. But, like, your daughter is 6. And it's not something that you're going to talk about as a parent. But it's just nice to know. I mean, life is hard enough. And it's nice to know that, wow, our daughter's going to be in college before there's a chance that somebody else is the biggest sports figure, that somebody else quarterbacks his team. She is literally going to spend her entire youth. All right, she's going to be like in her early 20s and turn to a friend of hers and go, I didn't know anybody else was allowed to play quarterback for this team besides Patrick Mahomes.
I believe Soren coaches his girls' basketball team. I thought we had that conversation because his daughter and my daughter are around. I think his daughter's a year older than mine. And he mentioned that she might be a little bit older than that, but I know that he said flat out, hey, that commercial where they're all wearing the jerseys, that's going on here. Make no mistake that commercial with Mahomes is happening right now in Kansas City.
And as crazy as this sounds, he left money on the table. I mean, the scenario that I threw out there late last hour, I mean, if you start at $42 million a year 2 years from now, because if let's just say Mahomes was a free agent now, you would think the Chiefs would have to make the first digit of 4, right?
Yes.
If he was a free agent. So he would make a minimum of 40 this year. So if the contract extension doesn't kick in for 2 more years, you got to figure a minimum 42. Minimum. Well, now give him a $2 million bump a year for the rest of the contract. That's less than a 5% rate. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, the Chiefs would essentially be giving Patrick Mahomes a cost of living increase for the rest of his contract. Well, 10 years, I mean, the average year, I mean, that's $500 million, I believe, if I did my math correctly. 42, 44, 46, you go all the way up. Final year of the 10-year deal would be, I think, 60. I believe that's $500 million over 10 years. I'm telling you, as crazy as it sounds, he just agreed to the largest contract in North American sports history. He left money on the table.
There's no doubt.
Serious money.
There's no doubt. And that's why, getting back to my point, David, I really wonder, and Lee Steinberg would know, he did the deal. He's got to believe that the money on the side in one place is worth it for that contract, or he wouldn't have told him to sign a 10-year deal.
If Mahomes wants to, and there's every indication that he does, Mahomes could be the next Peyton in terms of endorsements. You know, Peyton didn't say no to a lot. Brady, very picky, did very few endorsements. Okay, Eli, did a few.
Yeah,
right?
he did them because at some point Peyton called him and said, seriously, quit leaving all this money on the table. You're in New York.
Right.
Just do a watch commercial, for crying out loud. You don't even have to say anything and they'll pay you.
No, you just stand there. I mean, you know.
Throw a football, raise your other arm up showing the watch, and call it a day. It's like $3 million, bro.
Right. You do nothing. They'll put you on billboard in Times Square. What do you care? You don't go into the city. You live in Hoboken, for goodness sakes. You play football in Jersey. What do you care? But seriously, every indication is that Mahomes is like, yeah, I don't mind the attention. I'm okay with it. And, yeah, I'll do some endorsements. I'm good with this. I mean, you could see where he's going to be this generation's Peyton in terms of visibility, in terms of always being considered an upper echelon quarterback. Never mind the fact he's got an MVP and a Super Bowl before he's the age of 25. I don't think there's been a quarterback in the history of the league who's ever done that. So get ready. Hope you like Patrick Mahomes. You're going to get a lot of them.
Just looking at those old Bird Magic ads playing horse, I'm just thinking of Mahomes with a McDonald's ad throwing footballs in left-handed from 60 yards. It's not going to stop. And Soren said a year ago he was on every ad in Kansas City to begin with.
Right. 479-5551, 479-5551. CBS is happy too. Okay, believe me. Now there's talk that in the next TV deal, they may eliminate the allegiance to conferences. Because Fox has it better than CBS. I mean, the NFC teams and markets, there are more people in them. The NFC games are higher rated than AFC games, except for the Steelers. I mean, they just are. So Fox has a better deal than CBS does. And so that's why there's talk in NFL circles that they may try, and they've already done it a little bit. Like we've got games now that are, they've tried to balance out the schedule a little bit. They've thrown CBS a few games that in years past they wouldn't have gotten. But, Mark, and CBS is going to have the game this year if we have a normal year. Kansas City visits Tampa Bay. That's CBS's game of the year. Now think about that. Say that out loud.
It's my game of the year, too. This was going to pay for my entire season ticket package for the whole year, David.
But say that out loud. I remember a fan. I don't think I've ever told this. A fan came up to Joe Buck a couple years ago, was a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, and said, hey, Joe, blah, 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 and finally said, hey, I'm a Bucs fan. When do you think you'll be in Tampa again to do a game? And Joe stopped and looked at Troy, and Troy stopped, and they looked at one another, and Joe just shook his head and said, I don't know, when they play somebody good, I guess, because you just couldn't envision it. You're like, wow. When is the 4:00 Fox game?
Right. I'm stuck going to Detroit every other year on Thanksgiving, but that's only because they make me.
Wait a minute. You want to send me to the 4:25 game in Tampa? Wow, I don't know. And meanwhile, arguably the highest rated regular season game of this coming season, knock on wood, Kansas City at Tampa Bay.
And just so you know, New Orleans at Tampa Bay or Tampa Bay at New Orleans is going to rank in the top 5.
Yeah, that's going to do okay too.
Right.
Right. A couple of quarterbacks combined who are 83 years old. Miller and Moulton.
As people commented today, not only in our Twitch chat room, David, but in the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text line, 479-5551, 479-5551. With the sensitivity of sport names, could Mahomes be the last quarterback in Chiefs history? Probably.
Well,
I don't think he should be. But
I don't think he will be. I don't. I don't think that Clark Hunt will say it the way Daniel Snyder said it nearly 20 years ago, but I have a very hard time in that part of the country also of him and them succumbing to whatever pressure may come their way. Okay, and it'll come within the next year. When Redskins and Indians go bye-bye, and the Braves have already been asked publicly about their name, and they've already addressed it, and they said, well, this is our stance, and we're sticking to it. Now, they don't expect the forces that are out there to abide by it, but they've said, hey, we're not changing our name. Trust me, we've talked to the Native American community. We've done this over the last 3 to 5 years. We're not doing it. Now, we may, and we did it last year in the playoffs, okay, we may get rid of the tomahawk chop. That, you know what, people have made some points. We may not sell the foam, okay, tomahawks anymore. We may not encourage that, but we ain't changing our name. The Chiefs play in Arrowhead Stadium. They've been there almost 60 years. The guy who owns the team now's father founded the team and moved it there. Put Kansas City on the map, quite frankly. Mark, I don't have a lot of money left after the last 3 months, but whatever I got on the Chiefs' name not changing.
Well, there you have it. We'll go from football to football.
Look at you.
MLS restart. Dallas not going to make it. They've been relegated. The first relegation in North American sports. Why, it's something we've yearned for decades on this show. We did not think it would be caused by a pandemic.
Oh, but boy, when you put it that way, Mark, now I'm really in favor of this. I didn't know how I felt, but now I do.
Relegation, MLS style. We'll break it down next. Miller and Moulton, thanks for listening. Fox Sports Radio, where we stream the show every day at millerandmoulton.com.
This is The Herd. Colin Cowherd.
So Fox Bet came out with something. It's called spread value of coaches. How many points is your coach?
And I do think
worth?
Miller and Moulton
and the names at the top
makes
are not
a good
surprising.
point.
Bill Belichick is
right.
a field goal. What? Number 8
that the Braves
is
and Chiefs,
Mike McCarthy?
they almost
have
to feel
Mike
as if they're
McCarthy's
going to
winning
the handball
percentage plus a Super Bowl is higher than Pete
right.
Carroll.
And if
John
the Braves
Harbaugh's
are going to hold firm.
Colin
Who do you think is the favorite to win the MLS tournament? I don't even know who's in the MLS tournament.
We've got our good friend Tim Meister, owner of the
All I know is I'm not betting on Dallas, Memphis, Tom. Jesus.
Flooring. Tim, tell us what's
MLS tournament.
Right now we have 90 colors of Core-Tech in stock, ready to go pick up, put down as soon as you want it. Everything from starting at $299 on up with lifetime warranty.
And it's not just the many colors of Core-Tech that you have. You also have other Core-Tech products as well.
We also carry the Core-Tech stone product. Looks like tile, looks like stone, but it's Core-Tech, so you get the softness, quietness, and the easy installation to go with it. We also have Core-Tech wood. Look of wood, real wood, but with a more stable core for Southwest Florida's humidity.
If you haven't been to the Floormeisters, you really owe it to yourself to visit the store. 6281 Naples Boulevard, right next to Costco, or go online, floormeisters.com. That's floormeisters.com.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Dan Martineau here, owner of D.R. Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. I've been repairing and replacing roofs for 27 years. We operate with integrity, knowledge, and service. Google DRM Roofing or call 239-332-1441.
License number CCC 1326954.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
People often ask me, how did you grow my shower door so big and so fast? But the answer is, we didn't. What we did is we took our family business, we hired great talent, trained our staff, and developed our product. Now, after 17 years, my shower door has 8 frameless shower door showrooms, with our newest in Cape Coral. If you're looking for a frameless shower door company that you can trust and research, and you want to see more, go to myshowerdoor.com.
I'm a busy person. Catch the show anytime. Check out MillerandMoulton.com and subscribe to the daily podcasts.
Let's face it, these are stressful times. New routines, the constant bombardment of bad news, and trying to keep you and your family safe all the time. It's Frank for Center for Men's Health. During these stressful times, your mood is so critical, and nothing's more important to a guy's mood than testosterone. The single greatest issue for guys with low T is mood. And the single greatest change for men that get low T care is a greatly improved mood. Many are grumpy when they start, and most can't believe how much their mood improves once they get treated. And everything improves once your mood improves. Feel the difference C4MH.com can make in your life. I've been a patient at C4MH.com for a couple of years.
NASL
Recently,
names
I've lost 20
at
pounds because now I have the energy to work
Memphis
out from
Tom.
home. And that'll put you in a good mood, too. C4MH.com's express treatment plan is convenient, affordable, and above all, safe. And with locations all up and down West Florida, there's one near you right now. Find out more. Go to C4MH.com.
Pool need a checkup? Call the doctor, the Pool Doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. Is your pool a pain to operate? Automation is the answer. Use your phone to turn on your spa, and it'll be warm when you get home. Free on-site evaluations. We're a family company. And for over 40
Jiro, we a
years,
minute
we've
out?
been doing business right.
The prescription is the Pool Doctor
Less
for
than a minute.
award-winning pool service, repairs, and unheard of $39 diagnostic calls. That's mypooldoctor.com or 239-574-1133. State certified CPC 057088.
No matter where you're boating, with Towboat US, you're covered by the world's largest towing fleet with over 300 ports nationwide. Your local Towboat US companies in Charlotte, Lee, and Collier counties are here to help 24/7, 365 days a year. Inland, the river to Lake O, and out 75 nautical miles. And new membership pricing starts
Joe,
as low
good
as
morning.
$99. Call 239.
Very well. Mark Miller and David Moulton in Southwest Florida. Thank you very much for your time. We're going on literally in 15 seconds here. So, Dave, will go first. I go second. Thanks
Now
again.
back to Miller and Moulton. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Nearly halfway home on this first Tuesday in July. It is the 7th of the month at 29 minutes past 7 o'clock. We are Miller and Moulton. This is Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Streaming the show once again at millerandmoulton.com and broadcasting live once again on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. Today was the day when, coming up in roughly 20 minutes. Joe Tollison is kind enough to join us. He's with SiriusXM Soccer Channel, which is SiriusXM FC 157. And you can follow Joe on Twitter at Joe Tollison. Joe, top of the morning to you. Hope you and the family are doing well during all this. How are you?
Doing great. Glad to be with you guys.
Joe, the news from yesterday, in which it hit the MLS the way that we fear it's also going to hit some other stick and ball sports here in the next couple of months, that the MLS had to take the step of saying to one of their teams, sorry, too much coronavirus, you guys got to go home. Surprising, shocking? What was your thought?
Surprising, yeah, because, you know, we've had a situation here leading up to this MLS's back tournament with teams delaying. I mean, there's some teams that are supposed to play, you know, in the next few days that still haven't made the trip down to Orlando. They've kept postponing the actual travel to Orlando. So it seemed like they were doing everything possible to keep teams in the tournament. And last Wednesday, they even made the announcement, okay, yes, we have these positive tests with FC Dallas. We're going to just move their first game of the tournament back. So again, they were going to take these steps they could to keep everybody in this, because the thing to remember as well, the other conundrum that MLS has now with FC Dallas being sent back and not participating in this tournament, the first 3 games of the tournament, the group phase, also count towards the regular season. So now they need to figure out a way for FC Dallas to get these 3 extra games in at some point if MLS is actually going to finish a regular season that they did not play here in Florida. So, yeah, I was surprised and also curious to see if anybody else is going to take the same route.
All right. There's a lot just to grasp from that one answer. What are the contingency plans that you're hearing if there's another type of Dallas situation? Because we now have one team that can't play in the tournament but need the games. If this happens again, at what point do we have too many teams doing this that the season's no longer worth continuing?
That's the thing that nobody knows. That's the whole unknown in all of this. Unfortunately, I think for everybody, NBA, MLB included, that are trying to finish something, it's going to be a wait-and-see approach. And you're just going to have to pivot and react to what happens. And the thing that they're still not sure is exactly what the situation was with FC Dallas, of how these guys contracted this. Initially, we were told that they had negative tests for everybody when they got on the plane to go to Florida. And now all of a sudden they have, 10 players, a coach, that have all tested positive. So where did the contact come where they contracted coronavirus? Now, the upside is we were able to hear from Dan Hunt, the president of FC Dallas, who, gets to come on and meet with the media on a day where he wants to celebrate signing Patrick Mahomes, because he also owns the Kansas City Chiefs, and is talking about pulling a team out of this tournament. And he was adamant, one, about, safety first for these guys. That, his concern is the health of everybody. But the upside of this, if you want to say there's a positive in this, of the people who have tested positive, he said a number of them are asymptomatic. The others just have very mild symptoms, a cough, maybe a mild headache, whatever. So at least at this moment, any of the people who have tested positive, it has not developed into a serious case of COVID-19.
The MLS resumes tomorrow in Orlando. The MLS is back tournament. It will now have 25 teams in it. We're talking MLS with Joe Tollison of SiriusXM FC, channel 157. Follow Joe on Twitter at Joe Tollison. I just want to make sure I understand this, Joe. So this Dallas Soccer Club is out of the MLS's back tournament, but they could still make the playoffs because they have enough points? I mean, if they get healthy, or is their season over?
Oh, it's not over, not by any stretch of the imagination. So the other thing in all this, it's a crazy thing with this MLS's back tournament. It is not the most logical, straightforward sporting event that we're used to dealing with. Plain and simple, because you have the group phase where these teams are all divided into groups. They're going to play 3 games to decide who makes it into a round of 16 to start a knockout round to find out who wins this whole tournament. Now, the group phase, the 3 games that they play, also will count towards the regular season standings, because when this tournament is over, the hope for MLS is they can resume their regular season in their home markets. Whether or not they'll have fans in the stadium, that's still to be decided. But nevertheless, they want to resume the regular season and try and play a full season. They're talking about playoffs and MLS Cup in late November, perhaps back into December, as it had been for a number of years. So they want to play a full season. So Dallas's season is not over right now. It's just they're going to have to figure out a way to make up 3 games that they did not play here when this tournament starts tomorrow in Florida. And MLS also hasn't announced what happens to the other teams. Is it just going to be a case the teams they were supposed to play, they were supposed to open with Vancouver on Thursday night, Vancouver just plays 2 games in this tournament, or are they going to have to figure out how their schedule works out, and then Vancouver plays Dallas later? There's still some more information to come out about how MLS is going to react to sending this team home, and is that all that's going to happen for this tournament? Is there anybody else who follows suit?
All right. Help me out here a little bit because I'm going through these groups before we had them on, and I hope I have the right thing in front of me. But do I have this right that we have 6 teams in one group? And
we have
what
so
the hell? What the hell?
So here's the problem. They wanted to play 3 games, kind of like a World Cup kind of deal.
Right.
But they have 26 teams. So they ended up putting 6 teams in one group. And here's kind of the rub on all this. One of those teams that's in that first group, Group A, is Nashville, who, for the purposes of this tournament and for the purposes of just this season, let me backtrack here. Sorry. When the regular season started back at the beginning of March, Nashville was in the Western Conference. And that's where they were going to play this season. There was going to be 13 teams in each conference. Now, with the start of this tournament, they need to break it up. You can't have an odd number of teams to try and make this thing work. So they moved Nashville into the East because that was the other thing in this tournament. They were going to, in the group play, everybody was going to stay within their conference. So they moved Nashville over. They start this whole thing, and now you lose a team from the West where Nashville should have been. The other funny thing, with the 6 teams in that group initially, it was the top 2 teams from each group advanced, so there's 12 teams, and then they were going to take the next best 4 teams based on record, and they were going to move through into this round of 16. And then before this starts a couple of weeks ago, they decided, you know what, there's 6 teams in that group. More teams from that group should make it through. So they've kind of making up the rules as they go here to try and figure out how they're going to make this work.
NASCAR, hold my beer. I mean, this is...
my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm kind of looking. Miami's never played a game. Orlando plays Miami. That's a big deal for Florida. Orlando's been met with a lot of success. We've been waiting for what seems like 30 years for the Miami team to get started, and yet I'm looking at odds and Miami's favored. Are they good?
Well, that's the other thing here. The way MLS is set up, where they're able to pull from a global player pool. You know, it's as though the NBA was able to start or, you know, and have an expansion team where they can just pull players from wherever they want. And, you know, for MLS, unlike the NBA, which is probably the closest thing we have to a global sport here, where you're going to pull players, perhaps the NHL. The thing with the NBA is the best players in the world right now play in the United States, not necessarily the case in soccer. So for Miami, they went out where they were able to fill some roster spots, and they find players in South America. Then you have the designated player rule in MLS where you can go out and sign your superstars, your 3 players. They can pick whoever they want, you know, and it's Miami. And, you know, what's going to be interesting as we continue, not to get off topic here, but as we get down the road here, talking in a couple of years, there's players from around the world, one that some people may have heard of, a guy by the name of Cristiano Ronaldo, who was somewhat intrigued about perhaps coming to the United States and being able to play in Miami for a former teammate he had at Manchester United and David Beckham. So there's going to be some interesting stories that come out of that. But, yeah, you're able to go out and find some players and put them on your team that can make you an immediate contender. And Inter Miami is looking at doing that. Now, they haven't played, you know, they played just a couple of games, hadn't played their home opener yet. But, you know, they're trying to get in there and get going. And, you know, we'll see what happens in this tournament. But they're a wild card as well because they've assembled a team, but nobody's seen them play. So, you know, you don't have a lot of scouting information on what you're going to deal with here.
Joe, who do you like in this MLS's back tournament?
Well, here's the irony. One of the teams that some people liked that they thought might have a pretty good chance at this was FC Dallas.
It's Dallas, right.
You know, LAFC initially was a team you said, hey, these guys are for real. They have players. But Carlos Vela, their superstar from Mexico, he's not playing in this tournament. He has said, I'm not going to go. My wife is 37 weeks pregnant. She's about to give birth. I'm not leaving her at this time. And I'm not putting myself in the situation that's developing in Florida in terms of coronavirus. And so I'm not going. So they're, you know, missing their best player. So you have to see what happens there. You'd have to think that you like Seattle a little bit. They're the defending MLS Cup champions. You know, Toronto you maybe look at, but they've gotten a little bit older. I would look at maybe a Philadelphia or New York City as well. That there's some optimism there for them, but it's a tournament format and not a traditional, series or any of that. You have to first see what happens in the group phase, and it's like starting the NFL season. And you know what? We're going to play a couple of games, almost like the preseason, because we haven't played in 3 months, and then we're going to start the playoffs. So in that situation, how are you going to handicap this thing? Who are you going to pick? Because you just don't have enough information to really say these are the teams we like. This is a situation where you could really see a wild card team that nobody expected to do well catch lightning in a bottle for 3 weeks.
Joe, thanks for making time for us, particularly at this hour. And, hey, at least beginning tomorrow, I know you've been working, but at least you'll have matches to talk about for the first time, at least in the MLS. I know they've been playing elsewhere, but it'll be nice to have some MLS.
And you know what? I will say this. They are going to do some cool things because they're not in full stadiums. They're going to take some chances on the broadcast front. One of the things that I thought was pretty cool that they discussed was some of their camera angles and whatnot. They're going to use drones to give you some different camera angles. So at least for the casual fan who maybe doesn't watch a lot of MLS, you're going to get a very different viewing experience, and it might be worth that just for the novelty of the whole thing.
Cool.
Hey,
sounds exciting.
Hey, it's something we can watch. It's live. We're in. I mean, Joe, we're in. We can watch, and we know the cities that the teams play in. Bring it on, man. It's a great opportunity for the MLS. Let's hope they take advantage of it.
And, you guys get up early every morning, and you have an opportunity here on a few days that right when you get off of work, you go watch a game.
Boom. In.
Joe Tolleson.
In. I'm watching NASCAR, for crying out loud, Joe. I'm going to watch the MLS.
From SiriusXM's football channel, FC channel 157. He's Joe Tolleson. Follow him on Twitter, Joe Tolleson. That's with 2 L's and 1 S. Joe, thanks so much. Appreciate it. All the best.
My pleasure. Enjoy the day.
Joe Tolleson, kind enough to join us here on Miller and Moulton. Had to throw that last question in there. We had a few people between the text line and the Twitch TV chat room who were like, hey, who do you like in this MLS thing? And, of course, you and I were like, you're asking us?
All I know is that 538 said the LA team.
Okay.
That's what I've got. And if, David, you want to, I'm going to give you a little bit of free advice right now.
Okay.
BetMGM. Not available to us in Florida because gambling's not legal yet. But if you know someone in Colorado, David, Indiana, West Virginia, or New Jersey, David, you receive a 100% deposit match on your first deposit up to $500.
Look at that.
That's free money, kids, to gamble with.
Look at that. And I don't know if anything says degenerate gambler more than betting on the MLS's back cup.
Deposit match. That's what I'm talking about.
Is this a 401k match? No, it's my betting deposit match. Leave it alone. Miller and Moulton. Today was the day when, coming up, Soren Petro at the top of the hour will go live to Kansas City. Pat Kerwin to talk all things NFL. Patrick Mahomes got paid yesterday, ladies and gentlemen. He will join us in about 40 minutes' time. Miller and Moulton, thanks for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Drive home with the
You got Pat?
Lead Show.
Yeah.
Okay. It wasn't on the list.
Powerful visual
Yeah, he was on the list.
symbolism with
We're
all
just
those
Pat,
drivers
we
walking
can't
behind
promote
Bubba
Pat,
Wallace and then standing at attention during the national anthem and some powerful embraces.
We can't
And
send
look,
out
let me
his
speak for the
Twitter
rest of America.
Pat has
Whoever the
said
white
that
people are, the
basically we
people
have
are
to do
that are
this.
doing
It's
these
kind of
things,
the way
you
Gary
can
was,
feel
where,
free to walk off
make sure CBS is not aware of it. Pat's like, I'm really not supposed to do terrestrial radio. Like what Joe just did, he's actually not supposed to do.
It's just like
really?
Western bacon
Yeah,
cheeseburger
Sirius
with charbroiled
about
beef,
3
crispy
months,
bacon,
3-4
and
months
onion
ago,
rings,
really
on top
came
of
down
tangy
hard
barbecue
on their
sauce.
people.
But we
Yeah, I
added
mean, that makes a
spicy
lot of sense.
jalapenos
Why would you
and
not
melted
want
pepper jack
publicity for your
cheese.
people that are hosts
We
to get
took a
people to
burger that was
join?
already delicious
Since you've
out,
been giving it
spiced
away
it
for
up.
7 months,
Why
you
are we using this
moron.
flip track to explain it? Because jalapenos sound like this.
They go through these phases,
Try the new
and they're
spicy
in another
Western
one of
bacon
those
cheeseburger
phases.
at
So
Hardee's.
Yep.
Feed your happy. Limited time only at participating Hardee's restaurants. Price and participation may vary. Hardee's presents the Southwest Omelet, Biscuit, and Burrito. Wanted in 42 states on charges of bringing a sweat to the brow of breakfast lovers with low spice tolerance. We start with a made-from-scratch biscuit. And then we add a fluffy omelet full of melted cheese, crispy bacon, and spicy jalapenos. And if you're feeling extra wild, you can get it all wrapped up in a burrito. The Southwest Omelet, Biscuit, and Burrito are back, only at Hardee's. Feed your happy. Limited time only at participating Hardee's restaurants. Price and participation may vary.
Looking for a frameless shower door? My Shower Door has just opened their 8th Florida showroom, and it's conveniently located in Cape Coral. With more than 75,000 frameless shower doors installed, no one has more experience and 5-star reviews than My Shower Door. We've been named #1 by readers of the News Press and Naples News for 17 consecutive years and have just been named as Lee County's Manufacturer of the Year. Want to see more? Go to myshowerdor.com.
We've got our good friend Tim Meister, owner of the Floor Meisters in Naples, on the phone. We're talking about their huge selection and great pricing on Cortec flooring. Tim, tell us what's new at the store.
Right now we have 90 colors of Cortec in stock, ready to go, pick up, put down as soon as you want it. Everything from starting at $299 on up with lifetime warranty.
And it's not just the many colors of Cortec that you have. You also have other Cortec products as well.
We also carry the Cortec stone product. Looks like tile, looks like stone, but it's Cortec, so you get the softness, quietness, and the easy installation to go with it. We also have Cortec wood. Look of wood, real wood, but with a more stable core for Southwest Florida's humidity.
If you haven't been to the Floor Meisters, you really owe it to yourself to visit the store. 6281 Naples Boulevard, right next to Costco, or go online, floormeisters.com. That's floormeisters.com.
When we talk the talk,
this is what we talk about.
He's talking about right and wrong.
We back it up.
Talk about what you know.
We're Fox Sports Radio. And when we talk the talk,
a lot of sports stuff to talk about.
we back it up.
Good sports talk radio.
On Fox Sports Radio.
Dial star 2020. Friends, I care.
Do you panic when someone says we need to
You know,
talk?
I think that is the response,
We need
David,
to talk, but don't panic.
from this
is
point
a good time
forward,
to talk. Those glasses
to the
and
masked
contacts
people.
are
You don't want to wear a
sporty,
mask?
just
Do you
the
wear a
way of
seatbelt in
you
your car?
having the freedom to enjoy a more flexible lifestyle.
I think that's
Friends
really
I
it.
Care wants to offer you $1,000 off bilateral LASIK, the savings that will allow you to
Well, the
celebrate
difference
better
is
vision
that
and
it's a
better life.
law.
Dr. Jonathan Franz,
Okay,
who's
now it
expert
doesn't mean everybody's going to follow it, but
you
it's a
see your
law.
future
What
in 2020
we
through
haven't
the
done
advanced
is
technology of laser
in a lot of
vision
places,
correction.
we have
So what
not
if you've
made
been
it
told you're
mandatory.
not a
I got you, but it's the
Cape Coral last night.
Oh, they went nuts. 3 people got arrested for wearing a mask.
And they voted it down 5-3.
Of course they did. It's because Cape Coral.
Time for you to experience better vision and a better life. Dial star 2020 from your mobile phone.
But yeah, I mean, I've gotten into it with people in which I'm like, do you wear seatbelts? Yes. The funny thing is, there are people I know who wear masks, but they're against the whole principle of being told to wear a mask, and it's not. And I'm like, hey, I don't know what to tell you. They're like, well, you know, who is it to tell us to wear a mask? Well, our leaders. That's why we elect them. You know, we've got rules, we've got laws. What's the point of rules and laws if we don't follow them? Now, the problem with the masks is that they're not mandated. Certain places they are.
Back to Miller
Not here.
and Moulton.
Not in this state.
This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
$11 minutes before the top of the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Soren Petro will join us live from Kansas City, a little bit past 8 o'clock, to talk about Patrick Mahomes getting paid yesterday. In a big way, the richest contract in the history of North American sports, a 10-year, $450 million extension. It doesn't kick in for another 2 years. It'll run through 2031.
Time now for
Miller and Moulton's Today Was the Day When, giving you the history of today's date so you're a beacon of useless knowledge around the office.
Useless, but a lot of fun to talk about.
This is Today Was the Day When, Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
A lot of things I want to get into today in here. We start in the year 1900. That's when Kid Nichols notched his 300th career Major League Baseball victory, winning as Boston defeated Chicago 11-4. Really, none of this is relevant to me other than the fact that we're changing team names now, and I want to bring up a couple of old names in Major League Baseball. That was Kid Nichols throwing for the Boston Bean Eaters in their 11-4 win over the Chicago Orphans. Bean Eaters, Orphans, any of those you want back, David?
Well, we're going to have a few
right?
new names here.
You were throwing some MLS names in there from the 70s during the break or during the last interview.
The North American Soccer League, Mark. Love my Cosmos, my Strikers, okay, my Rowdies.
1914, since the deal of Mahomes is the news today. It was in 1914 that Baltimore Orioles owner Jack Dunn offers Babe Ruth, Ernie Shore, and Ben Egan to Connie Mack and the Philadelphia A's for $10,000. Mack doesn't have the money and turns it down.
Wow.
Think Mahomes is worth the money now, David? That's all I'm telling you. Without today, we would never have the phrase better than sliced bread, because it was today in 1928 that Otto Frederick Rohwedder invented the machine used to slice bread. Nothing, huh?
No, I've never understood it. I have to admit, I've never understood that one. All right. And I like me some bread. I do. But, you're making it sound as if, better than sliced bread. Like sliced bread is the top of the proverbial food chain.
Of the bread chain? What, do you want to just rip hunks out?
Well.
You are a little, that kind of suits you.
Yes.
Give the man a loaf, 2 hands, and some butter, and you can go to town. Satchel Paige signed today by the Cleveland Indians as a 42-year-old pitcher in 1948. Dragnet premieres on NBC Radio today in 49. A couple years later, it would premiere on TV. 1959, the 26th All-Star Game at Forbes Field in Pittsburgh. Willie Mays triples to score Hank Aaron in an NL win 5-4.
You know what's the great thing about All-Star games all through the 70s? The starting pitcher would pitch a minimum of 7 innings. And the starters oftentimes played the whole game. If you look at box scores from All-Star games until like the early to mid-70s, you would just see like 11 guys play for each team. That's it.
David, you're so right. I am someone who liked to keep score. And I would write my little score sheets down and wait for my Tiger to get in the game for his one at-bat, one infield inning, whatever it was. And, David, sometimes it didn't happen. In fact, oftentimes it didn't happen. 1967, Light My Fire by the Doors, #1 hit in the land. 1978, Martina wins her first Grand Slam title, beating Chrissy 2-6, 6-4, 7-5 at Wimbledon. 1978, what a terrible move. The NBA approves a franchise swap. Buffalo Braves owner John Brown and Harry Mandarin acquire the Celtics, while the Celtics owner, Irv Levin, gets the Braves and moves it to San Diego to become the Clippers. What a stupid move. I want the Boston Braves, or the Buffalo Braves, not the Boston Celtics? How's that possible, David?
I don't know, Mark.
Really want to get to San Diego with the basketball team. That's where it's at. 79, Borg beats Roscoe Tanner for his 4th straight. 85, Boris Becker becomes the youngest to win Wimbledon at the age of 17.
Boom, boom. That's what he got nicknamed.
In 2001, Junior wins the Pepsi 400. That's right, the Pepsi 400 on 4th of July weekend in Daytona. First race after his father's death.
At Daytona, yep.
Yeah.
Came from behind on a restart.
Yep. Andy Murray wins in 2013 to become the first Brit to win Wimbledon since 1936. If you were born today, you share your birthday with Satchel Paige, mentioned earlier, born today in 1906. Doc Severinsen, born today in 1927. Always hated when Ed wasn't the co-host and Doc moved from band leader to the seat.
You didn't like that?
No.
See, I did because I thought Doc was funnier than Ed.
Some days he was. Some days, most days I didn't think he was. Ringo Starr is 80 years old today. I was thinking about trying to do the whole show on who are the Ringos of sports.
Ringo played Alico Arena like 15 years ago.
And, right. Tony Jacklin, the golfer, born today in 1944. Shelley Duvall, born today in 1949. Ralph Sampson is 60 today, David.
Damn. Wow. That hurts.
Jim Gaffigan is 54. Chuck Knobloch, 52. Joe Sakic is 51 years old. And Michelle Kwan, the figure skater, is 40. And David, today was the day when on this July the 7th. Yes, Ralph Sampson is 60.
I was going to say, my mom felt the pain in the side, and your mom did too, about Ringo turning 80, but the one that makes you and I feel a little old is Ralph Sampson turning 60.
No doubt there. No doubt there. Yeah, I saw the Ringo thing this morning, and I was like, we could do a whole show on who the Ringos are in sports.
Sure. That's a good show. Might do it tomorrow.
I don't know. We got to break down Miami and Orlando in the MLS.
No, but I will have scores for the starting five beginning Thursday.
Sora and Petro next, and Pat Kerwin all ahead. Miller and Moulton, Fox Sports Radio.
We are Fox Sports. Even in my 80s, every dive is exciting and enjoyable. When I developed cataracts years ago, I couldn't see well underwater. You can have the best gear and know the best dive spots. If your eyes aren't the best, it's just not the same. And Dr. Scheibo knows that.
Knowing how much Jimbo cares about diving, it was a privilege to fix his vision.
It's great to know that we got eye doctors in our area that care just as much about me as I care about being in the water.
Hi, this is Dr. Scheibel from Community Eye Center. My partner, Dr. Spatafor, and I want to remind everybody, don't be a spreader. The coronavirus is so tiny, 100 million particles fit on the head of a pin. As we run around in our trucks and cars and play golf and go fishing and go to work and do the things we like to do, we are spreading the virus.
God, somebody tweeted at me a picture of some meathead at the Fort Myers Costco going nuts at somebody for not wearing a mask. Like, is that the guy? I'm like, nope, same store, though.
Be a spreader.
Receiving.
Apparently, he was just screaming at an old lady.
Play Fox Sports FM
know.
on TuneIn.
Isn't that wonderful?
LeBron has shown his greatness. Kevin Durant's a better player.
Sorry, I don't know that one.
Smart speaker.
Are we cheering for idiots? What's going on?
Sounds more like a dumb speaker, am I right?
You're an idiot. Nice job.
Get Southwest Florida sports talk delivered to your speaker.
This is easy.
Just say, Alexa,
hello.
Play Fox Sports FM on TuneIn.
Finally, something worthwhile.
I didn't think it was going to be this easy.
We are Fox Sports.
Pool need a checkup? Call the doctor, the Pool Doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. LED color-changing pool lights can create an after-dark backyard oasis. Pick your color or select one of the light shows. You can see how dramatic it really is on our website. We're a family company. And for over 40
Penn State's going to have an interesting day if this basketball coach indeed said this.
For award-winning pool service, repairs,
well,
and
this story's
$39
old,
diagnostic
though.
calls. That's mypooldoctor.com.
This story's been around a while.
So this isn't the first time the kids claimed it?
Well, but the kid explained it last week.
To Cape Coral
and the
all
story's
of
been
Southwest
out
Florida. 94.1 Fox Sports Radio. We are Fox Sports. Here's what's trending now. Brought to you by the Center for Men's Health. C4MH.com.
Like, just for you-know-what and giggles, I looked up the box score for the 1967 Major League Baseball All-Star Game.
Of course you did.
They went 15 innings. First off, just Drysdale the winner, Catfish Hunter the loser, Seaver the save.
Hello.
The names are great.
Soren.
Soren, yes.
Mark Miller and David Moulton, how are you?
Good, guys. What's going on?
Oh, Groundhog's Day. March,
Right.
what do we call it? March 148th, I think we're calling it.
Yeah, what are we at? Let's see. 30, 61, 92. We're at 99, March 99.
Oh, March 99th. Sorry, I jumped the gun.
Very nice. I like it. We kept count. It's what, day 17, 18, 19,
There's
day
only
119.
one way to wake up in the morning.
Since they shut down sports.
Yep.
Right.
Yep, that's it. Miller.
You know what? I'll try to bring you back some fish.
And Moulton.
Okay, you drop it off at the front door.
Probably in the mailbox. We'll pack ice.
Broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote Studios, where it's always cool and comfortable.
Oh, I like
It's up to you now. It's up to you.
I like it.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
It is the third and final hour of Miller and Moulton on this first Tuesday in July. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming once again at millerandmoulton.com and broadcasting live once again on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. Pat Kerwin in about 25 minutes to talk all things NFL. We head out to Kansas City. We have not talked to Soren Petro since the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. He's with Sports Radio 810 in KC, and follow Soren on Twitter at Soren Petro, Soren Petro. Top of the morning to you. How are you and the family holding up during all this?
We're healthy, and right now that's all that matters, right? As we try to get through it, and get back to sports.
We were talking about your youth basketball team an hour or so ago, okay? And we brought them up because we were just talking about, imagine being the young sports fan in your neck of the woods, and you are going to be in your 20s, maybe your mid-20s. You may be married with kids until you turn to a friend of yours and go, wow, I didn't realize someone else was allowed to be the quarterback of the Chiefs.
Yeah, I got a 10-year-old daughter who will be 22 when the contract ends, and it's the exact opposite of what my life was, right? I barely remember Len Dawson quarterbacking the Chiefs, and it was at the end of his run. The Chiefs won the championship in 70. He quarterbacked into the mid-70s. I was born in 71. So my entire lifetime of Chiefs football until the last couple of years was just kind of journeyman quarterback, one after another, leading the team. And now, my kids get to be spoiled. Hopefully the health is obviously a big part of the equation and for all of America right now, but also in the sport of football, barring some kind of unforeseen health problem, they've got a franchise quarterback, something that we had really basically given up on in this town was ever going to happen.
Well, and the other side of this is not just from a standpoint of the longevity there. You had already mentioned how he was ingrained in every ad in town. I mean, can they rename Kansas City my hometown now? I mean, this is going to be unprecedented because he was already, you said when we talked before the Super Bowl, he had already reached rock star status. How much larger do you think the status is because he signed this unprecedented deal? Football players don't sign 10-year deals.
Yeah, I think it does get bigger. I think of the way I probably described it, because I've said it a number of times, is he was Len Dawson plus George Brett times Bo Jackson. I mean, he's the quarterback, which is a unique position in sports, like Len Dawson, and a franchise caliber quarterback. He's a Hall of Famer and an MVP, like George Brett was. But then he's also Bo Jackson in the sense that he's the SportsCenter highlight reel. He makes plays that other people don't make and lead SportsCenter. He's all of those things wrapped into one. And to this point, it's a lot of pressure to put on a kid who's 24 years old, but he's checked every single box off the field as well. So, we were talking about Ben Roethlisberger made the comments, that he was addicted to alcohol and porn, a couple of weeks ago. We're like, man, that's one thing to have the guy who won a Super Bowl early. We've got a franchise quarterback. We've got someone to entrust the keys to the franchise with. But this is also a kid who right now has done nothing wrong off the field. It seems to be the perfect leader. There are people whispering behind his back like, oh, yeah, well, Patrick's all about Patrick. Every single person in the organization and around town, every experience he's had, every story you hear from fan interactions, whether it's him picking up the check for dinner. There was a night he was out with his girlfriend, and they were having dinner, and everyone was kind of looking at him, but nobody went over and talked to him. And he got up, and as he was leaving, he said, hey, thanks, everybody. Everyone was kind of looking at him. He said, thanks, everybody. Really appreciate you letting us have a nice night. And he walked out, and then one by one, as everybody got their check, they found out that Patrick Mahomes had picked up their check. There are stories like the stories of being on the golf course, and he played golf with somebody, and he saw them a week later, and he remembered their name and asked how their kids were doing and knew their kid's name. I mean, there's yet to be I was around Patrick Mahomes, and he was a jerk. So all of that together, with obviously starting with the brilliance on the football field, has made him just an icon in a very short time here in Kansas City. And couple that with, like I said, the thirst that was there for somebody to come in and take that role that had not been filled for 40 plus years in Kansas City, and then to do it so well. Yes. I mean, this was news that frankly was expected, but also is the kind of news that fans wanted to hear. Not just that he signed on in Kansas City, but that he signed on with the kind of contract he did for the kind of length he did, I think is one that will just make that relationship between player and city grow.
He's Soren Petro, Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City. Follow him on Twitter at Soren Petro, Soren Petro. Did you see MLB Network put together a documentary on Ken Griffey Jr. a week or two ago? Have you seen it?
I've seen parts of it, and I've read some of the things that have come from it, some of his comments.
Because when I was watching it, I thought of Mahomes. I just, that there was a time, and it is difficult to imagine it now, when the coolest, hippest athlete in sports, the late 90s, as Jordan was phasing out the second time, but for a really short time, the coolest, hippest athlete in sports was a baseball player. And as I was watching the Griffey documentary, I was thinking, the coolest, hippest guy for the next 10 years is going to be Mahomes. I mean, he's isn't he?
I think, you say that, and we've discussed it, that he's kind of the right guy at the right time, right, for all of sports, in the sense that, we've got a racial movement going on in this country, and he's a guy that's got a black dad and a white mom, and embraces both sides of his, culture and where he's come from, and can speak to the, that movement, and was ready to jump on board with that movement immediately and lend his voice to it. I mean, that's one of the things that was said around here, and maybe it was our own arrogance and our own pride and our own guy, but that, hey, Roger Goodell had to say something when Patrick Mahomes was on board. Like, he was the guy. There were a lot of other powerful NFL players in that, but when he was part of the Black Lives Matter movement, that really said, okay, that's it. This is the entire NFL, because it starts with the top guy and on down. They are lending their voice to this, and the NFL and the NFL owners are going to have to respond to it. And did a Zoom that next day or two later to talk about it, and was ready to talk about, what his plan was and how to contribute and voter registration and different things. He is, and again, just 24 years old. That's why I say it's, talk about him being perfect off the field, being that guy that checks every box. And that's so much pressure for a kid who's 24 years old to handle. But to this point, he's handled it all, and handled it all with grace. And I think that does speak to your point that, yeah, he is the coolest kid in the room, and he also happens to be really, really good at football, which now takes that ability that he has with people and that ability to be a leader and showcases it. And I think it's a great statement for the NFL and for young people.
Sounds like a silly question, but who got the better of this deal? It's literally our poll question today. Mahomes, the Chiefs, both, neither. For the record, no one's answered neither so far, and we just threw it on there because. But in terms of this deal, who won? We think it might be the Chiefs. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it might be the Chiefs, because I've seen life without Patrick Mahomes, and I've seen life with Patrick Mahomes, right? If he gets hurt and has a career-ending injury in a year or two, we're going to look at this very differently. But, I think for the Chiefs right now, the way it, at a time where fans might not even be allowed in the stadium, the way it just keeps the momentum and the energy rolling with the fans, I think it would be the Chiefs. It's either the Chiefs or both, and that's hard. That's funny to say when a guy gets the richest contract, what potentially could be the richest contract in the history of sports. But the difference in what it means to have a quarterback. I've watched a lot of good Chiefs football teams, but they were good teams that really in the back of everybody's mind they knew weren't good enough to win it all. And Patrick Mahomes gives them the ability to win it all, and the feeling of what was a franchise that was totally invested in the Kansas City Chiefs for years, to then see that fan base have a belief and a confidence that they can go out and win. It's just night and day for what the atmosphere is and how over the top fans are with that team. So the Chiefs definitely didn't lose, and they're either both or they're the winner. And if you had to pick one or the other, I would pick the Chiefs because I know what the emotion is like now versus when they were good teams with journeyman quarterbacks.
Is this team going to be able to be kept together for maybe more than 2020? I mean, Frank Clark has said, I ain't showing up without a new contract. He wants to get paid. Fortunately, Mahomes' extension doesn't kick in for 2 years, and he's only making 2.8 this year. But, they kept Sammy, and that could be a year-to-year thing. Frank wants to get paid. Seren, when do you think the Chiefs can put off having to retool, if you know what I mean?
They can't. It may begin this year with Chris Jones's contract. I think you said Frank Clark, but Chris Jones,
I'm sorry.
who you're meeting, yeah. And I think it might start this off season. I mean, that may be some of the collateral damage that comes from this. I will say this, I've been adamant, a lot of people have been talking about, most people thought the Chris Jones contract, because the July 15th deadline for the franchise tag is coming up, that would be the one that they would handle first. And I've been saying all along, and I give the Chiefs credit, that if Chris Jones' deal gets done before an extension with Patrick Mahomes, you've got the battery in backwards. I mean, you've got to get Patrick Mahomes signed, and then you deal with every other contract after that. This has to get done. So I give Brett Veach and the Chiefs a lot of credit for getting this done, but to your point, they're at $176 million for next year's cap, a cap that we don't know what that number is going to be. They're at that already. That's the money that they've already got on the books. And with that comes the fact that they've only got 2 wide receivers. Sammy Watkins isn't signed beyond this year. He took a pay cut to stay on this year and not get cut outright, but he's not under contract. And Marcus Robinson's not. They've only got 2 running backs under contract for next year. They're guard, center, guard, starting guard through guard. They're done after this year. They're going to be missing a couple of defensive linemen. They're going to miss one of their starting linebackers. Their starting corner is on the last year of his deal. It will begin immediately. This will be the last year, with or without Chris Jones. There will be a massive change to the Chiefs roster beginning next year. And I think that's why it was so important to get Patrick Mahomes in place. And I think when we get all the details of the contract, we're going to find out that Mahomes did some things to maybe make it a little bit easier to lessen that blow. But this is what every team goes through. And, I talked with the guys in Seattle last night, and Russell Wilson went to 2 Super Bowls when he was on that rookie contract. And then since then, they've been good, but haven't been able to get back there because it's a very different effect. I've talked about this. I said, look, if he gets $40 million, he's counting $5 million against the cap right now. Take $35 million off last year's team. And somebody said, well, yeah, no, they just wanted to go on. And I was talking with the caller, and I said, no, let's do it. Let's take $35 million and look at how this team is different. I said, because you can't just take the bottom of the roster and get the $35 million. If you want to take $35 million off this roster, that's no Tyreek Hill, that's no Travis Kelce, and that's no Bashaud Breeland, the starting corner. Those are 3 major pieces that have to come off the roster. So it will look very different here moving forward now that contract is in place. And it's why this year's quote-unquote run-it-back theme is going to be a big one. I mean, they've got 20, if Chris Jones is back, 20 of the 22 starters back, and then it's going to look really, really different for the next few years after the 2020 season. That's why this 2020 season is really important for the Chiefs to be played, because it can be really a rebuilding roster around Patrick Mahomes for the next couple of years after it.
All right. Give me a realistic expectation for the Chiefs and the Mahomes contract. If the Chiefs do X, this was successful, or is it already successful just because they locked him up for 12 years?
If his career, and we talked a lot, as we've had no sports here for a while, we spent a lot of time talking about the Chiefs and their Super Bowl run. If they don't make it back, right, and his career resembles Dan Marino's, except he won his 1 Super Bowl, or Aaron Rodgers' career where he won 1 and hasn't been back, I think it's still a success just because of the amount of, chiefdom, for lack of a better term, that is everywhere around town, how it dominates the landscape, I think it is worth it. But, certainly, he's talking about a dynasty in the little hype video he put out yesterday after the contract was signed. He's talking about let's build a dynasty. And I think that's the idea. The want here in Kansas City is to replace the Patriots. Now, to expect them to go to 9 Super Bowls and win 6 of them, I think is unfair. But I think certainly winning another Super Bowl and getting back to a couple more, that's the expectation of what will come with this contract. But to your point on the last question, I mean, it will get significantly more difficult to do it with the weight of that contract. And Brett Veach, the general manager, Andy Reid, the whole staff, the front office, they're going to have to be better than they've been during Patrick Mahomes' time to this point to make that all work, because they're going to have to find diamonds in the rough. They're going to have to manage the cap. It's for me why I don't think they should sign Chris Jones. It should be a 1-year, $16 million deal, and then they've got to wave goodbye just because of the way the contracts are structured. They're going to have to figure out how to win without having the highest paid guy at 2 or 3 different positions. That's been one of their problems. Eric Berry was the highest paid safety. Justin Houston was the highest paid outside linebacker. They weren't afraid to pay players. They just couldn't find the position that really needed to be paid, and that was the quarterback. And so now they've got to go New England Patriots style, and that's where anybody gets a big contract, you spin them off for other picks, and you're just putting the pieces around Patrick Mahomes. And that's going to be the challenge for Brett Veach, and we'll find out over the next couple of years if he's up to it.
With the Redskins and Indians team names in the news here in the last few days, there are those of us that have wondered about the Braves, about the Chiefs. Has that come up at all? And how do you think that will go when the forces that are out there in our society come targeting the Chiefs and their name? I said last hour, I'll bet every dollar I have that the name of your franchise never changes and never wavers in not changing. But how do you think that's going to play in Kansas City when the forces that are out there come calling?
I think the Chiefs have been working with the indigenous people here and in the area, and when they have marketing movements, when they have different decisions that they make, they have reached out to the leaders of those groups and tried to work with them and try to make sure that they are, in the fold. So listen, most people in Kansas City, all Chiefs fans will tell you, well, there's a big difference between Redskins and Chiefs. This is a term of honor. It's a term of leadership. It means more. It was named after H. Bartle, who was one of the city's kind of civic leaders early on in the growth of the town, and he was called the Big Chief. And that's where the name comes from, and therefore it doesn't matter. Well, when you put an arrowhead, on the for the logo, you're clearly associating yourself with the people that lived in this country before. The white folks got here, and so I think there's no doubt that it is tied to that community. I also think there's no doubt that it has a better relationship and is not as much in the forefront as Redskins and Indians are, and I think a lot of people in Atlanta think, Braves and Chiefs, those are positive terms. They're not negative, but I don't know. I can't give you that answer. I would have told you no, it wouldn't change, but it's a different time. It's I think people are much more now willing to listen and say, okay, if this is offensive to people, we've got to look at changing it. And I have no doubt that there's going to be a lot of discussion about it. I know nobody in the organization wants to talk about it. And, since this subject has really come up over the last week, I've reached out to a number of people at the organization, and it is absolute silence. Now, maybe that silence was because people knew they were getting close to announcing this, and they didn't want to get on the phone and be answering questions and get oh, by the way, where are we at with 15's contract, right? But right now, they're going to come to the forefront today when they do some Zoom press conferences, and we'll find out. I would be stunned if that question doesn't get asked at some point during the mix. Maybe it won't because of how big the contract is, but very soon they're going to have to be out in front and addressing the season, and that question's going to come up because it's going to be a topic as long as the Redskins are in the middle of doing what they're doing.
Soren, hopefully the Chiefs are kicking off the season against the Texans on that second Thursday in September, and hopefully there'll be a few fans in Arrowhead to celebrate their second Super Bowl title, and maybe we'll talk to you in and around that date. Thanks so much for your time once again. All the best to you and your family. Stay safe and healthy.
Hey, thanks. Same to you guys. Thanks for having me.
Soren Petro, he's with Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City. Follow him on Twitter at Soren, Soren Petro. And Soren kind enough to join us once again here on Miller and Moulton. Pat Kerwin will join us coming up in just a few minutes. 12 years. You're a Chiefs fan. You asked a great question, all right? If you don't win another, it basically
this is
he's
it.
Aaron Rodgers.
This is Rodgers.
Rodgers sat for 3 years.
I got you.
But if you take that out of the equation, Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl the third year he was playing. The third year as a full-time starter, he won a Super Bowl. Pat Mahomes won a Super Bowl his second year as a full-time starter, his third year in the league. The Packers have not been back to the big game, never mind won it since, which no one could have envisioned a decade ago. Certainly not Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Just like Dolph fan could never have envisioned Marino and the Dolphins were not going to get back to the big game after they went his second year in the league. But if you ask a Dolph fan, hey, you got 15 more years from number 13, they're like, yeah, wouldn't have traded a minute of it. Not a minute.
And, I look at it as, I want the Lions to do well because I'm from there, but I don't really have, my heart's not pulled towards them. But Matt Stafford's the best quarterback of my lifetime for that team. And it ain't close.
No.
It ain't close.
No.
And he's done nothing.
No. 2 trips to the playoffs, 0-2.
Nothing. And if you're a Lions fan looking at what you talked about with the Dolphins or the Chiefs, you're going, oh, yeah. Where do I sign up for that? Just give me one, baby. I don't even know if they need to win it. Just get me to that game. Just give me the Marino. Give me one Super Bowl and a bunch of really good. And I think that a lot of fan bases would go, I'll sign up now.
Because what is it, and it's fitting that who's our next guest but Pat Kerwin, but what he said many years ago. As a team, you have to do one of two things for your fan base. You have to provide them with winning, or you have to provide them with hope. And like we just addressed with Seren, they're going to have to retool here in 2021 and 2022. They may not be contenders for a couple of years and the first couple of his contract extension. But if you're a Chiefs fan, what do you think you're going to have for the next 12 years? Well, I got hope. I got number 15. The Dolphins weren't always good under Marino. They had some years where they were pretty mediocre. But what did Dolph fan always think for most of his
got a shot?
Remaining
I've
years?
got 13 back there.
Damn right.
We got a shot.
Damn right we do. Just put the ball in his hands and chuck it over the line.
Now, who knows what Cam's going to do? But with these Patriot teams, your Pats fans knew they'd lost this guy, that guy. But we got Bill and we got Tom.
Right.
And you said it best towards the end of the Peyton Manning run. It was Peyton and 4 or 5 guys. And yet, when you picked teams to win the AFC, you could not do it without mentioning the Colts.
Right. Yeah. You go back. The Colts of the mid-2000s had a lot more good players. When they were doing battle and struggled to get by and finally did the Patriots teams of their first dynasty, they had a much deeper roster than the Colts that went to the Super Bowl in the 2009 season and came knocking on the door for a couple years thereafter. You take a look at those rosters, they really were Peyton and 5 guys and then 40 guys. They had 5 really good players, an epic quarterback, and 40 guys.
By the way, Packers fans are going right now, yeah, it's called us.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Miller and Moulton. Pat Kerwin next, and then the good, the bad, and the ugly. Here on Miller and Moulton. Thanks so much for being with us, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
So I may tell this story. In fact, I'm going to tell this story on air tomorrow. Kid that I know quite well, really good golfer. Matt's 22, maybe? Went to San Antonio, qualified for the Korn Ferry Tour yesterday.
Oh, wow.
David, he shot 63.
Damn.
9 under par. Had to wait it out to make sure he wasn't in a playoff. From the Q School, there's a Twitter account called Monday Q Info. It says, want to be a pro golfer, Steve Allen edition. Last week at the Korn Ferry Tour Monday qualifier, Steve Allen made 8 birdies, 0 bogeys, shot 64, didn't get through. Today at the Korn Ferry Monday, he had 7 birdies, 0 bogeys, shot 64, didn't get through.
And you want to see more, go to myshowerdoor.com.
Right. Want to be a pro golfer?
Right. Today, between the 2 Korn Ferry sites and the PGA Monday qualifier, there were 4 63s and 16 64s that didn't get through. I'm going to repeat that. 4 63s and 16 64s.
Wow.
Are you kidding me?
Pretty easy course. But yeah.
Okay. I'll go play the fort and shoot 64.
Not only that, have that many guys do it.
Right. He birdied the kid I know birdied his last 6 holes to get in. And had to wait it out. You shoot 63 and had to wait it out. 33-30 and wait around to make sure you're in. It's not a putt-putt course. I mean, that's something. Guys aren't very good.
There was a big amateur tournament in Jersey when I was growing up, and they had a first-round cut and a second-round cut. And then you played 36. So it was a 72-hole tournament. But you had to make it, then you had to make it, and then, and then obviously you brought your score with you to the 36 holes, and you did the best you could. I remember growing up, the goal was just to make it to play 36. Because you had to shoot in the 70s. You had to shoot in the 70s to have a chance of seeing round 2.
Thank you for your business all these years.
Hardee's presents the new spicy Western bacon cheese.
Good morning.
Pat, good morning.
How are you, boys?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Terrific. Just, I was supposed to be in Florida this week, and my wife is not ready to come home. She's had knee surgery, and she can't really do anything yet. So she's still in rehab. So she said, I need 2 more weeks of it. So my daughter's taking care of her. And I said, I can't come down twice, Jim, because there's a 14-day quarantine. When you get back in New York, they'll turn you in. So I can come once.
Well, you might as well stay there. It's safer there.
Safer there than here.
Oh, how's the amoebas going?
I don't go in the water.
Yeah, kind of nuts.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
How's the fishing?
Things are good. I played more golf than fish, but I was at the beach with my grandkids, and they were catching fish off the beach, bluefish and stripers, so it was fun doing that. So I got a tree guy coming today. I'm hoping we get through this before he starts cutting down some major trees in the woods here. And I told him, try not to start till 9 o'clock, all right? So
8:45, right.
All of a sudden, it's going to sound like a chainsaw massacre otherwise. Oh, Lord almighty. So, you want to borrow some money from Mahomes?
I do. Yeah. Either that or Kanye. Either one, Pat.
Kanye's going to make his for a lot longer than Patrick. I don't know. He should never stop making it. I'm glad for Patrick. It's good for him. It's good for those guys. It's good for the club.
And as we begin to head for home here on this first Tuesday of July, thanks so much for being with us. We're Miller and Moulton. This is Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com and broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. They're both free. They're interactive. Sign up. We would appreciate it. We always appreciate Pat Kerwin taking some time to join us. He does so courtesy of Pinchers from Tampa to Key West and 8 locations in Southwest Florida. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Pat, how are you?
I'm doing fine. And I feel like it's the old days when I had a calculator on my desk and I was getting new batteries for it every day because I was running out contracts. And so I said this to my listeners yesterday. When a deal like Patrick's comes along, basically every front office, whether it's the cap guy or the negotiator or the president or the owner, they're going to have a meeting and they're going to sit down. And I remember having to present at those meetings. All right, tell me about this contract. All right, it's a kind of a new deal. It's not really like Tyron Smith's deal, although at the time everyone thought $100 million for 10 was a big time deal. But so then it's like, will this have an effect on us? Do we have anyone down the road here that's going to want this kind of deal? So they all want to know, and you got to go through rate of pay and guarantees. It's amazing how much roster bonus they're using. And for your listeners, the roster bonus means that you're taking the cap hit in that year. So you're just banging away at this thing. And then my owner would ask questions like, even if you told him we might have to do a 6 or 7 year deal with a guy, oh, what if he gets hurt the first year? I said, well, we don't have a crystal ball, but we could lock him up, and then we have to worry about the injury rate and all that business. But rate of pay is interesting to me in this one. The first 2 years, the rate of pay is $16.8 million. The 3-year rate of pay is $21 million a season. The 4-year rate of pay is $26 million a season. The 5-year, when he's out 5 years, is $28.3. Out 6 years, it's $30.6. And then 32.8 and 36 at 8 years. So think about that. It's the 8th year when he really crosses. Now it chunks up after that, but it's the 8th year when he passes Russell Wilson on his average. So there's a lot of merit to this deal for the club, and there's certainly a lot of money for the player. So my instinct yesterday was this will affect Deshaun Watson, although they're now claiming he's not interested in this kind of deal. You never know. But I remember the meetings like yesterday. And I remember the first one I ever did. A little nervous. Mr. Hess is sitting there, he owns oil all over the world. And he goes, tell me about the Reggie White deal, the first free agent deal. What's it going to mean to our guys when they're free? And we had a couple of players that he, in his mind were, what's going to happen when Freeman McNeil, because Freeman was, part of that legal lawsuit. So I remember going through all of our guys. It won't affect this guy. It won't affect that. Now, it could affect this guy, that kind of thing. But the guys who make money and know what money's all about, this is the kind of stuff that interests them, and you better know what you're talking about.
All right, you mentioned Watson. That's my first thought to you, Pat. What quarterback? Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott? I mean, who, when you saw this contract, who were the other quarterbacks you thought about first?
The only one was Deshaun Watson in this group. And his agents already claiming they're not interested in that kind of deal. But I didn't think of it as relates to Prescott. They've been negotiating so long, they're not going to turn around and start over. And the club might want to, if they study this deal and start breaking it down, they might want to. But I think they're down to 4 or 5, and they'll get it done. And, remember, Jerry did a 10-year deal with Smith, as I said, and it looked like a mega deal when it happened. But down the road, where is it? And I talked to 2 agents yesterday, and I asked them, and then one of them has a lot of big clients. And I said, well, what do you think? Because I would never do this deal. So it's funny, as much as we're broadcasting it as a great deal and the most money ever and all that business, it's funny how some agents think. The real good agents, in my opinion, and I'm not going to, and Lee Steinberg did this deal, and I've done deals with Lee, but guys, most of these younger contract negotiators for the players, they like to get back to the bargaining table every few years. I think they like more like the Kirk Cousins kind of stuff. Yeah, 3, after 2, you got to force the team back because you couldn't franchise tag him again. So I don't think there's that many, Mark. But maybe down the road here, if another superstar shows up in a draft, maybe Tua as an example. If I was in Miami, a little premature conversation, but you'd start to study this deal, and they'll keep their eye on it as it goes forward. And it's funny when you do a big deal. I remember when I was doing Keyshawn Johnson's, he was the first pick in the draft, and no sooner did I get his name on the thing and it was submitted to the league that 2 GMs called me and they gave thanks, man. You got out of all the accelerators. I said, yeah, we just decided we weren't going to do it. And I knew he was old enough. You see, if you draft a 21-year-old guy, he might be stubborn enough to be a problem. But when you draft a 24 or 25-year-old guy, I was betting he's going to take whatever I put out there. And I was good to him in a lot of ways, but I wasn't going to give him all those accelerators that were barely becoming prevalent. And so they're all watching what you do. And if you do a bad deal, they're going to spread that around, and you'll be fired for that.
He's Pat Kerwin, CBS's NFL Today show. Moving the chains weekday afternoons on NFL Radio. And Pat joins us once again, courtesy of Pinchers. Well, I understand where Watson and his agent may say we're not interested in this kind of a deal. But, Pat, Mahomes is the standard bearer in the sport right now. I mean, as great as Deshaun Watson is, he's not Pat Mahomes. I mean, if you're the Texans, can't you look at Mahomes and his guy and say, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. This is how negotiations have always been done in this league. We have a new quarterback. They set the standard. We negotiate off of it. I mean, that's kind of how it works. And I thought it might affect Dak in this way. It's tough for Dak to hold off on 4 years when Mahomes is signing for 10. Don't you think Jerry now can look at him and go, I'm only asking for 5?
Well, Jerry's already got him on a tag, and he signed it. So you like to avoid the tag world because the tag world usually results in an exit by the player, certainly after 2 tags, but maybe even after 1. So you don't like the world of the tag, and he's got a couple. We're getting down to days now to get something done.
Right.
I've always felt Jerry should force the 5 on him, and sorry. And the 5th year, to me, Jerry likes to spread out the big bonus. So that's why he likes 5. He's going to take whatever that signing bonus is and divide by 5 is way better than dividing by 4. And he's always looking for cap space. And he's got the cash to do big signing bonuses. If I'm Jerry, I'm just going to go, look, I don't want you to play on the tag, but if you have to play on the tag, we need a 5th year. Now, the 5th year, you can make the 5th year appealing to the player in a lot of ways. You could put all kinds of parachutes in there that the year voids and everything else. And I would never let it void unless he got to a Super Bowl. If he got to a Super Bowl, I didn't say win it, just get to one, and he wants to void the 5th year, I think I'd go for that. But I would never give him back the franchise tag. Like, oh no, we're not going to give you. No, remember, they have one more franchise tag if they need to use it. So I could make the 5th year, and I think that's what's going to happen. They're going to have a little wiggle room, and the 5th year is going to be 5 for Jerry, but it's really going to be in the minds of Dak an exit plan that he can get to. I remember once again with one of the players, he was ready to sign, but it was just the last piece was always hard. And he made a comment, not the agent. We were in the room, and he said something like, I know I'm the best that ever played this position. He said that. I said, you know what? Let's write that down. Let's put that in writing. Here's what your position, the greatest player at this position ever did. So I'm with you. If you can get to those numbers, I'll void the last year. Of course, he never got to them. But once he said that, and his agent put his head down and just started shaking it like, oh, God, why did he open this? So, you can get to the 5th year wiggle, and I think Jerry and Steven can do that.
Pat, I know ultimately these are things that you don't care too much about, but they're pressing in the league. The Redskins, after, Dan Snyder basically was the NRA, out of my cold, dead hands, am I going to change this name? And funny, after Nike and FedEx said we have a problem, it seems that they're going to change their name. Do you think there's any chance that they're not the Washington Redskins for this season?
I don't. I think they should be the Redskins for this season. I have a couple of things I want to say here about all that. Number one, honestly, the nerve of Nike to pull the product down. I thought the league did a deal with Nike.
Right.
And I thought the Redskins were a league member. So once they pulled down the product and didn't have it available for sale, I don't even know they were allowed to do that. They can, who are they to say that if they have a deal with the league as the league products, developer? So I was a little taken back that the league didn't say, slow your roll. You can be upset all you want, but you're selling Redskin product until that name is changed, if it is changed. And once they said no, if I was Dan Snyder, I would have thought like, you know what? Let me call Adidas or someone else and see if they want to sell stuff. That's the first thing. Like, I thought that was way out of bounds. Nice, politically correct. Everything's great there, but isn't there a contract? Who gave them the right to pull down a team's stuff? That would be my first question. The second question is, when the silent partners wanted to get out, or reportedly wanted to get out, usually they really don't. I would have made the head of Mohegan Sun one of my new silent partners. I just would have said, "You guys interested?" And see where you go from there. Now, changing the name. I mean, Bruce Allen was criticized and eventually fired, but he was the point man on keeping the Redskin name. But mostly, it's not a name. And this is the thing that I know you guys cover. It's a brand. And so when he bought that team, he bought that brand. And that brand is a pretty strong brand. It's under criticism. It's probably going away. But you got to think about what that guy bought when he bought the team, Mr. Dan Snyder, and what he thinks of as his brand. So it doesn't just happen because, everyone's going to protest and everyone's going to knock down a statue and now we should change everything they tell us to change. And then you have to come up with the name. And we all know when they come up with the name that they're going to change to, we're all going to hate it. We're going to laugh at it. We're going to do something. We're going to go, what, are you kidding me? And we've seen the colleges have to do that. And it's in time, no one will care. I mean, I look at St. John's. They were the Red Men, right? And then they changed to the Red Storm. No one cares. But an NFL team in the nation's capital, there'll be some celebration, rightfully so, that they have gotten rid of the name. But this is a tricky subject when you're selling a brand. And I hope they figured out reasonably. Dan pays attention to the right guys and does the right thing. But I don't know. You tell me, you guys. Did you think Nike can run that game that way and say, hey, we're going to pull your stuff down?
Well, first off, there's two things. The hypocrisy of it. I mean, Nike's had their own issues over the years.
They never go away.
Okay, so that's number one. But yes, also first year of the deal with the NFL. You're right. I'm surprised and even if Goodell and the NFL want the name change, this is principle as to a business deal. It's like, you call Nike up and go, yeah, you can't do this. We have a contract. You let us yell at Dan Snyder behind the scenes. You want to yell at us about it? Fine. But we have a contract. You need to honor it. We don't let business partners just get out of their contract when they want to. We're the National Football League. So, yes, I am surprised. And, yeah, it's going to be the Red Hawks or the Red Tails. It'll be one of the two. I'll bet large amounts of money it'll be one of those two names. Okay, but Daniel Snyder, it was about a decade ago in which he said, hey, I'm just telling you right now, and I know nobody cares about this, but I lose $500 million if I change this name. I'm just telling you. The Redskins may be worth $3 billion. We name it whatever we name it. It's only worth $2.5 billion. I'm just telling you right now.
It's a brand.
Now, I don't know if that should matter, but Daniel Snyder knows business, and he said, "I'm telling you, a name change is $500 million."
Let me ask you a question, and I'm all for the change. I get it, but he should be doing that. And the Nike thing. What if Nike tomorrow decides they don't like the name Raiders? Are they going to pull Raider gear? Who gave them the right to do that? And, anyone listening, go read about Nike and how they manufacture.
Right.
Go read about the screens around the facilities so the kids don't jump. Come on. We could go after them. But I just felt it was like, are you really allowed to do that? That's the first thing. Here's the question. Does anyone remember anyone protesting the name of the Washington football team when Dan bought it?
I remember this being something that's been going on for decades, Pat. I do. Now, it's had moments when the fever pitch has been higher than others, but this has been going on for a while. This is nothing new. We're just at a point where the screams or the talk is louder than it's ever been. But
yeah, I just don't remember, and I remember covering the Redskins when he bought the team. In fact, I plopped myself down. I think we were in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, his first camp. I just plopped myself down and spent 4 days there. And I'm looking, going, I can't remember. Maybe I forgot, but I can't remember anyone protesting the name or Snyder, now that you're the new owner, you should. I don't remember any of that. No, it developed over time, but I don't think he bought that brand ever thinking he'd have to replace it.
I thought the name was going to get changed last decade, early in the decade. I thought it was building. But the Washington Post, ironically, all right, 4 years ago, did a big, and they did research, they paid for it, in which they asked Native Americans around the country your thoughts on the Redskins name. And a large number of Native Americans did not have a problem with it. And I thought when they printed that, and it's not like the Washington Post has a good relationship with Dan Snyder. They don't at all, then nor now. And when they printed that, I thought to myself, wow, this name might survive. Now, it turns out it's not going to. But, Pat, I thought it was going to be changed about 8-10 years ago. And then 4 years ago when they printed that story, I went, damn, this might survive.
Yeah. Well, it's not going to, as you point out, and I agree with you. But I recall a few years ago when they had this battle again, that they went to some reservations and there were a bunch of high school football teams, and a significant number of them were called the Redskins. So who knows? We're talking politics now, not football. We should be talking about, is this a good team or a bad team?
Well, it's a bad team.
Thing, the highest capped guy, salary cap guy in the roster is Alex Smith, and he ain't going to play.
I mean,
he's hitting the cap at $23 million.
Pat, there's only the Jags that have a lower win total in Vegas. That's why we can't talk about the football team, because it's not worth, unfortunately, Pat, I don't think it's worth talking about. This is a bad team. It's a bad roster, and they're in a bad division. They're going to struggle to win 6 games.
Yeah. Anyway, the virus might be their best friend if the season's canceled.
Very quickly, though, do you think there's a way for Snyder to use this from a business standpoint? Like, can he use it to get a stadium built for him locally? Can he use this to get a Super Bowl? He's got a 90,000-seat stadium. He has wanted a Super Bowl. When New York got theirs, he was on the, hey, I want mine. I mean, can Snyder use this business-wise, or is this just a non-starter?
No, he's going to get his new stadium, which he desperately wants. And they're already getting ready to help him do that once he changes the name. So will he build a stadium, or will they build a stadium big enough for a Super Bowl? I doubt it. I think they're looking to build a 60,000 seat one, right?
They should be.
Yeah, I think they are, and I don't think they'll get a Super Bowl for that. There's a lot of rules about what size your stadium is for a Super Bowl, but.
Next Tuesday, it will be the day before it's franchise tag day. And we will talk a lot to see whether or not we have a deal with Dak and a couple of other guys, and whether or not a defensive lineman has been signed between now and then. Pat, as always, thanks. Be safe.
Yeah, I think you can get the Chris Jones deal done if you want to. Remember, he's on the books for over $16 million. You can create a deal off that. You'll get hit hard about 2 years down the road, but you definitely can get him under a contract if you want to. Do you want to make him the highest paid defensive tackle? Because he's not Aaron Donald.
No, but they gave up a lot to get him.
I don't think many of the guys are getting contracts. That's my point. I think most of the franchise tag guys are going to play on the tag.
He's Pat Kerwin, NFL Radio. His weekly appearance brought to us courtesy of Pinchers from Tampa to Key West and many points in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Pat, be well.
Be good, guys. And we got through before the chainsaw massacre starts on my trees. Very nice.
The good, the bad, and the ugly before we say goodbye on this Tuesday. Thanks for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program. I love the name, Johnny. Won't happen either. The Washington Hogs.
Reports of positive coronavirus tests throughout the nation. I think we look at college football and say, well, we got time here. We don't.
Yeah, I think it's going to be either Red Hawks or Red Tails.
I know, but I'm just telling you, I love that name. Like, I like that. You're right. That name's great.
How about the Red Hogs? I mean, it's not like you're going to have the hog community complain.
New routine, the constant bombardment of bad news, and trying to keep you and your family safe all the time. It's Frank for Center for Men's Health.
I think somebody put in our Twitch chat room yesterday or late last week, change the name, call them the DC Redskins. I thought that was funny.
for men that get low T care is a greatly improved mood. Many are grumpy when they start, and most can't believe how much their mood improves once they get treated. And everything improves once your mood improves. Feel the difference C4MH.com can make in your life. I've been a patient of C4MH.com for a couple of years, and recently I've lost 20 pounds because now I have the energy to work out from home. And that'll put you in a good mood, too. C4MH.com's express treatment plan is convenient, affordable, and above all, safe. And with locations all up and down West Florida, there's one near you right now. Find out more. Go to C4MH.com.
Looking for a frameless shower door? My Shower Door has just opened their 8th Florida showroom, and it's conveniently located in Cape Coral. With more than 75,000 frameless shower doors installed, no one has more experience and 5-star reviews than My Shower Door. We've been named #1 by readers of the News Press and Naples News for 17 consecutive years and have just been named as Lee County's Manufacturer of the Year. Want to see more? Go to myshowerdor.com.
Listen to Miller and Moulton at home on your Amazon Alexa. Just say, Alexa.
Receiving. Over.
Play Fox Sports FM on TuneIn.
We are Fox Sports.
Tonight on Wink News at 6.
People that sit there and say, well, it's defund the police, they want a quick answer. Not that simple.
Fort Myers Police Chief Derek Diggs brings a unique personal story.
You didn't mention it yesterday. You mentioned it during a Twitch break, but you didn't mention the composer of The Good, Bad, and Ugly dying yesterday, did you?
Yeah.
During the
Not
segment?
the show, no.
No, you said it during the break.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Tonight on Wink News at 6.
Pool need a checkup? Call the doctor, the Pool Doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. Is your pool a pain to operate? Automation is the answer. Use your phone to turn on your...
My mom sent a text, said, Ringo was my guy, and he's overachieved spectacularly.
For over 40 years.
He might be the most overrated human on planet Earth.
I don't know about overrated. I'd say overachiever, though. Because nobody gives him any credit.
Right, because all his solo music sucks. Sucks. So he lived in the Yellow Submarine. Big effing deal.
Over and over again. God, that song. I felt like that song growing up would never end.
Exactly.
Like, doesn't this wind down at some point?
And it's not just the many colors of Cortec that you have. You also have other Cortec products as well.
We also carry the Cortec stone.
Oh.
Looks like tile, looks like stone, but it's Cortec, so you get the softness, quietness, and the easy installation to go with it. We also have Cortec wood.
I didn't even have to look at Giro's stories. I can save those for later because these are so good today.
Wow.
If you haven't been to the Floormeisters, you really owe it to yourself.
Hey, Giro, was the camera there today?
No, they removed it.
Okay. Do we know whose it was?
From the best headlines.
Someone from TV left it
It's the
here.
worst thing that ever happened to anybody ever. Prepare yourself and hide the women and children. This is Mark Miller's Good, Bad, and Ugly on Fox Sports Radio.
You're live.
I love this good. It's I usually don't go sports, but I go to Kansas City for the good. Don't know if you caught this story. The whole Mahomes contract was leaked momentarily by Katie Camlin. You see, Katie works at a liquor store in Kansas City. When some Chiefs employees came in and bought 6 bottles of Dom Perignon champagne, and apparently a whole bunch of cheap champagne. And she's just kind of paying attention going, what's going on here? So she tweeted out, I'm a Chiefs fan. I've got a scoop. She then got nervous and deleted the tweet. She said she was afraid she'd get in trouble or alienate the Chiefs as potential employees of the store. But it turned out somebody caught it, and the Chiefs had to deny the local champagne buy to a USA Today source later in the day. But Katie Camlin, liquor store employee, beat everybody to the punch on the Mahomes contract because she sold the Dom to the Chiefs employees. That's fantastic.
I think she sent out a tweet a little bit later on that said, "And I beat Schefter on it."
We go to Lormia, Wisconsin for the bad, where who likes a woodchuck chomping at their house? I know I didn't. I know I had to pay a bunch of money to fix my house here from that damn woodchuck.
I used to enjoy watching your reaction to the woodchuck,
That
though.
son
I'll
of a-
tell you that.
Well, some 80-year-old was not very happy with his woodchuck. Or I'm sorry, some 50-year-old was not happy with his woodchuck, so he grabbed his gun and just tried to shoot it. Problem was he missed the woodchuck, hit the tree, and managed to clip an 80-year-old golfer who was nearby on a golf course.
Oh, for goodness
Fortunately, the 80-year-old was treated with non-life-threatening injuries and was released from the hospital. Sheriff's office said, might want to know where you're shooting and the area beyond it as well. Finally, the ugly, we come back right here to Florida in Hernando County, where Monica Gluck was leaving a home in Spring Hill with a blowtorch in her hand.
Why, of course.
She once lived in the house, and because the bad things that occurred there when she lived there, mind you, she doesn't live there anymore, she didn't have permission to be on the property or to go inside the home. Nonetheless, she brought a blowtorch and tried to burn the home down.
And it's not her home anymore.
Correct.
You can't do that.
The owner estimated the damage at just $3,000, and thankfully, no one was injured. That is the good, the bad, and the ugly on this 7/7/20. The longest year in the world.
So my father's teaching me how to shoot. And, we got cans lined up on the stones where my grandmother lived and all that. And he said, you can only shoot in this direction because behind it was the river. And he goes, you can only shoot in this direction. And I saw something move off at like 9 o'clock. And I turn and I go to shoot it. And I miss and I hear it ricochet. And behind where my grandmother lived are nothing but oil tankers. And I'm waiting for the next 2 to 3 seconds because I thought I was about to blow up Linden, New Jersey. I don't know where that bullet landed. Maybe it clipped an 80-year-old golfer like that guy in Wisconsin. But for a split second, Mark, I totally understand the woodchuck guy.
Miller and Moulton. I have nothing for that. Not a damn thing.
Almost blew a city right off the map.
Seth Everett on the show tomorrow. We'll see if he's been to Linden, New Jersey.
John Cassio grew up in Linden, New Jersey.
That says all we need to know about Linden.
Okay, you guys have a good day.